I start by building Chase. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351, The Confidence of the NS6. I never thought that such a shameful thing would actually happen in the Jianmeng Empire. The first human traitor appeared. Looking at the entire human history, this is definitely the only case. In the future, the whole world may look at Jianmeng people with a strange eye, and may even stay away from Jianmeng people. The pride in my heart disappeared without a trace. Catch Jack alive. He is the shame of our Jianmeng Empire. Catch him and give him the 10 tortures to let him know what the evil of society is. The hateful traitor must not die well. Countless Jianmeng people felt that they were about to go crazy. God must be joking again, right? The dignified Jianmeng people actually betrayed mankind for a group of ugly aliens. The scum named Jack should be punished the most severely in the world. The whole world was also in an uproar. It was really the Jianmeng Empire that had the first human traitor in human history. For his own benefit, he actually colluded with aliens and killed his former compatriots. For a time, people all over the world responded one after another, and a global march was launched. The racism that had just subsided not long ago was ignited again because of the appearance of the traitor. Just when racism on the Azure Star reached an unprecedented level, in Pandora, a planet far away in the Centaur galaxy. As time went by, the warriors of the NS6 people rode on fire dragons for several days and nights after the Jianmeng Empire succeeded, and finally rushed back to the sacred tree tens of thousands of kilometers away. The NS6 tribe was looking forward to the warriors bringing back good news. The chief told all the experiences and praised Jack's contribution. Suddenly, the NS6 tribe was overjoyed. It must be the mother goddess who'd bless our NS6 tribe. The ugly humans are just like this. Our warriors killed so many humans in one battle. This time, humans will never dare to look down on us NS6 again. Once upon a time, the NS6 people were beaten like dogs by humans, and they had little room to fight back. But now, the great revenge has finally been avenged. And the war also let those ugly humans know how powerful the NS6 people are, and they will never dare to destroy nature again. After a long time, the chief of the NS6 tribe signaled everyone to be quiet. The atmosphere of the tribe's celebration immediately faded. The chief said loudly, "My tribe, we were able to kill at least half of the humans and let them taste the anger of our NS6 people. All this is thanks to Jack. Jack, Jack." The NS6 people shouted Jack's name. After a long time, the chief said again, "Everyone be quiet, there is a sacred ceremony that needs Jack to complete." Many NS6 people immediately looked at the avatar who had not been controlled and the human Jack's body. At this time, the chief of the NS6 tribe was like a high god. Under the gaze of many tribesmen, he looked at Jack seriously and asked in a solemn tone, "Jack, under the witness of the sacred tree, are you willing to become a real NS6?" Jack swore loudly without hesitation, "I do." At present, he has severed his relationship with humans, and there is also his beloved girl here. Therefore, only a fool would refuse to become an NS6 now. As for the human side, the planet is so big, when I become the chief in the future, I can just move and still be a winner in life. The chief smiled and said, "Very good, Jack, you are worthy of being my son-in-law." Then, the NS6 tribe began the ceremony to make Jack a real NS6. Jack's human body and avatar were wrapped by the vines of the sacred tree. After a series of various rituals, what stood up was an avatar that was almost the same as the NS6. The human body completely lost all the sounds. It was the sacred tree that transferred Jack's consciousness and thinking into the avatar's body through some mysterious energy substance. At this moment, Jack has completely ended his relationship with the human camp. His body has become the body of a NS6, with blue all over his body, and a strong body of about 3 meters, no longer the body of a paralytic. He has gloriously become an NS6. The chief asked, "Jack, my son-in-law, how do you feel now?" Jack moved his body. After all, he had controlled this body with his mind a long time ago, so there was nothing strange about it. Now, he would no longer be a human, but a real NS6. "Father, I feel that I have infinite power in my body. This feeling is really great." Jack had a smile on his face. The chief nodded and said with a smile, "Very good, and there is another good news, Jack, you are going to be a father." "What?" "Yes, my daughter Neytiri is pregnant." After hearing this, Jack was so excited that he wanted to cry. His life was worth it. Not only did he have a body, but he was also about to become a father of a child. If this good news could be told to his father far away on the blue star, he would probably be so excited that he would wake up with a smile in his sleep. That night, the N6 tribes sent dozens of warriors to various parts of Pandora to contact various N6 tribes. They wanted to unite as one to defend their planet together. As humans continue to destroy the ecological environment, they must unite and show the power of the N6 people so that humans will no longer look down on them. Soon, the N6 tribes in various places heard that humans were going to blow up the sacred tree. For a time, countless N6 tribes put aside their prejudices and gathered accordingly. They not only had to protect the sacred tree, but also fight back, to let those damned humans taste the anger of the N6 people, and must beat them until they were afraid and had to choose to compromise and stop destroying the environment here. For a time, several N6 tribes immediately dispatched the most elite warriors from all tribes. They went in groups and murderously towards the direction of the sacred tree. After several days of rushing, an army of tens of thousands of N6 people finally gathered under the sacred tree. This army was composed of the strongest warriors from all the N6 tribes. They either rode fire dragons and held the sharpest bows and arrows, or rode six-legged heavy-armored horses and held the sharpest spears. Once this lineup appeared, it greatly boosted the morale of the N6 tribes under the sacred tree. We N6 will never compromise with humans. The Mother Goddess will guide us to destroy all evil humans. Ha ha, humans must be too scared to come. Our N6 warriors have gathered together. There are tens of thousands of warriors. Even if we scare them, we can scare those humans to death. My spear is thirsty. The N6 warriors are full of confidence. It's like an invisible confidence scattered in the hearts of every N6, so there is no reason for them to lose, never. As long as humans dare to come to the sacred tree, they will definitely kill them with the sharpest spears and bows. Jack, who had just betrayed humans, was the only one at the scene. He became more and more worried. Here, no N6 knew the power of humans better than him. The record of that night was just a fluke. If humans were angered, their terror would be unimaginable. The N6 Princess Neytiri appeared with a bulging belly and asked, "Jack, do you regret becoming a N6?" Jack said, "No, I am proud to be a real N6." The chief also asked, "My son-in-law, you are worried about humans?" "Father, you're right. Don't worry, this time all the N6 warriors in our world are here. There are warriors who can control fire dragons. According to your tactics, we can kill those damn humans with fire." Jack said, "I hope that fire can kill those damn humans." Just when the N6 were full of confidence and believed that so many warriors together would definitely be able to protect the base, Invading base took action. After several days of preparation, a battleship with a diameter of 3,000 meters entered the atmosphere, and teams of Marines in the base boarded the spacecraft. Lin Chen was also about to board the spacecraft, ready to witness the tragic situation that the N6 were about to face. Suddenly, the Red Queen appeared and said, "We just received a request from the Jianmeng Empire. Do you want to connect?" "Connect." General Bit appeared in the screen. Judging from that background, he should be in a warship at this time. General Bit said directly, "Our logistics ship arrived yesterday and brought a group of warship pilots, so let's go together and catch the traitor by the way." At this time, General Bit looked wise, as if he was a god of war who had won many battles. He knew that in order to capture the traitor Jack and minimize the losses, he must need the cooperation of the Wang's Empire Marines. At least their compact uniforms can resist the bows and arrows of the N6. Lin Chen readily agreed to the other party's request. After a while, the two warships in the sky merged and headed towards the sacred tree of the N6 people on the planet Pandora. The sky was not covered by the sky, but its scale was not small. Both sides dispatched a battleship and a battleship respectively. The huge spacecraft blocked the sunlight, plunging the forest below into darkness. Chapter 352 Is this called a counterattack? This trip. The two human forces united together only for the common interests of destroying the N6 and capturing the traitor Jack. The two spaceships were extremely fast, breaking through the thick clouds in the sky, revealing huge hulls, and heading towards the N6 sacred tree. After a while, the two warships arrived near the N6 sacred tree. This sacred tree is not of much value, and the real value is the pure ore under the sacred tree. The two huge warships slowly descended from the clouds. The good day suddenly became dark, so that many N6 subconsciously looked up, and then they were stunned the next second. The spaceship that blocked the sky. That's right, it was a giant of thousands of meters. If this huge spaceship is not flying, it can't feel its shock, but once it enters the flight mode, both the shock effect and the strike effect are far greater than when it is not parked on the ground. Seeing this scene, Jack was suddenly shocked. I never thought that humans would come so fast. Then, he immediately shouted, "Run, run into the forest." The N6 tribe panicked. The blind confidence before seemed to gradually turn into fear. How to fight such a huge thing? The N6 chief shouted, "Don't panic, don't be afraid, we must protect the sacred tree. The sacred tree will give the N6 warriors endless power." This greatly boosted morale. The panicked N6 people were no longer afraid, but showed a strong fighting spirit on their faces. That's right. It seemed that there was an infinite power in their bodies, so that these warriors had the confidence to defeat the enemy. Blind self-confidence. With the sacred tree behind them, the N6 people only destroyed some humans, which was nothing. The spacecraft had slowly descended to a height of 200 meters above the ground and stopped descending. Inside the battleship, the crew looked at this thick tree and fell into a kind of shock, the shock from the plant. This giant tree seemed to be bigger than the battleship. The chieftain of the N6 people was not in the mood to enjoy the leisure time of Lin Chen and others. He also had time to enjoy the scenery. He shouted, "Ride the fire dragon and attack from above." Countless N6 people rode on the fire dragon, but they were about to be frightened and flew up, holding the sharpest bows and arrows in their hands. Lin Chen no longer paid attention to the giant tree. He asked Red Queen to turn on the ground scanning function, and the picture on the ground suddenly appeared on the screen. Red Queen, compare the photos sent by Bit and find Jack among the N6 people below. Found it. A N6 appeared on the screen. He was about 3 meters tall, with blue skin with patterns, pointed ears, and a long tail behind him. Through comparison, this N6 was the avatar who raped Jack. As for why he was not seen in person, this is a mystery. You know, the connection cabin that controls the avatar is still in the Jianmeng base. Lin Chen did not think too much. As long as the avatar was captured, everything would come to light. On Jack's side, there was also a female N6 with a bulging abdomen. Judging from her behavior, the relationship between the two N6 people was not ordinary. Lin Chen seemed to understand why Jack betrayed humanity. He speculated that he fell in love with a female N6, so he betrayed humanity for this. Soon, the attacks of the two spacecraft were ready. Red Queen appeared on the control screen and displayed. Turbo laser cannons are firing, 10, 9, 8. The two black gun barrels extending from the inside of the battleship began to gather blue energy, and soon 2 energy beams with a diameter of about 10 meters were fired out. The energy beams were very fast, with a bright red light, and were extremely beautiful. The next second, the laser cannon directly pierced the trunk of the N6 sacred tree, leaving 2 holes for air circulation in its thick trunk. This process was extremely short, so short that many N6 had not reacted yet, and their sacred trees were already injured. The battleships of the Jianmeng Empire saw their allies launching attacks, and they were about to prepare for battle, but they would use violence directly. Inside the hull, 2 dangerous wanderers were operating urgently. After a while, when the N6 reacted, the chief shouted, "N6 warriors, attack, avenge our sacred tree." As soon as the order came out, the N6 warriors who had just taken off on the fire dragons began to bend their bows and shoot arrows at the huge monster in the sky. With such a large size, there was no need to aim at all. Swoosh, 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 tens of thousands of N6 warriors shot. The dense rain of arrows created a very grand scene, but the next second, the energy shields of the 2 warships were not opened, and the arrows hit the huge hulls one after another, making crisp ding-ding-ding sounds. It seemed that such a huge attack was just to hear such a beautiful sound. Apart from that, it did not cause any damage to the hull, and even the paint on the warships was not knocked off at all. Inside the battleship, the virtual body of the Red Queen appeared and said, "Professor Lin, the N6 have fought back." Lin Chen walked to their special refined ship window and looked down, and then saw that the sky was densely packed with N6 from all directions. They rode on creatures like pterosaurs and shot arrows at the battleships. Arrows hit the hull and bounced off. Even so, the N6 people seemed to enjoy it and continued to shoot arrows at the battleships. Lin Chen was stunned and said, "Are you kidding me? Red Queen, tell me this is called a counterattack." No damage was caused, and it is also called a counterattack. Red Queen said, "Yes, according to calculations, the N6 people are counterattacking at this moment." Lin Chen. At this time. The NS6 warriors were still shooting arrows, mustering all their strength to shoot arrows, and there were tens of thousands of NS6 warriors on the ground riding heavy horses to throw the sharpest spears at the battleships. However, it was still useless. Lin Chen stood in the spaceship, looking at those weak and powerless counterattacks and couldn't help smacking his lips and said, "Why don't these idiots know how to respect advanced civilizations?" At this moment, a real dimensionality reduction attack was staged. Even if the battleship where Lin Chen was quietly suspended in the sky without moving, and the NS6 people attacked in various ways, they could not break through the defense. No one in the battleship was soft-hearted, and they were all watching the weak attacks of the NS6 people outside with interest. Because everyone knows that kindness to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. Although these NS6 people are pitiful and ignorant at the moment, this race is evil. Now our side is stronger than the other side. What if the other side is stronger than our side? The cruelty of the other side, the tragic situation that happened in the Jianmeng base is the best proof, so there is no need for kindness between civilized races, only interests and conflicts, that's all. And the NS6 people are almost out of means. But these warriors are not frustrated at all, because they still have a trump card that has not been used, that is, fire attack. Use fire to burn the human spacecraft. After a while, the chief of the NS6 people shouted, "NS6 warriors, use fire attack to burn those damn humans to death." Immediately afterwards, the fire dragons under the crotch of tens of thousands of NS6 warriors spewed out flames. When tens of thousands of flames merged together, it was almost an endless sea of fire, enveloping the two warships. Boom boom, the fire enveloped the battle, emitting a series of violent groans. Even though it was far away, there was still a burning sensation covered by the flames. When the strong wind blew, it further fueled the burning of the flames and ignited the forest area below. At this moment, all the NS6 people were not in the mood to appreciate this spectacular scene. Their eyes were only looking forward to the scene after the fire. The NS6 chief looked at the two spaceships in the sky that were almost like big fireballs, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. Such a huge flame could roast the humans in the spaceship to death even if it was roasted. Seeing that his son-in-law Jack was still nervous, the chief patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. "Don't worry, my son-in-law, such a huge flame is enough to kill all humans." Chapter 353, Killing the NS6 like killing dogs. The ruthless fire continued. Jack's pupils reflected the shadow of the flames. Although the two warships were engulfed by the raging fire, Jack did not feel any excitement at all. Instead, he felt more terrified and timid. Can the flames really burn a spacecraft? Perhaps there should be no problem. After all, the temperature brought by the fire is not something that people in the spacecraft can bear. But the two spaceships were too calm, and the calmness was extremely weird. After a while, the uneasiness and anxiety on Jack's face turned into a deep horror. Because when the flames dissipated, the two spaceships were already quietly suspended in the sky, but there was still a very faint blue barrier around the hull. The chief stood there and was stupid. Can the raging fire not destroy humans? Sure enough, humans are all devils. Only devils can remain intact under the roasting of that fire. Jack's pupils stretched and contracted, and he shouted, "Run!" According to his understanding of humans, it might have been a cat playing with a mouse just now, but now it is very likely that the two cats are tired of playing, so there is only one result next. The other side is serious. The other NS6 people looked up at the two giants in the sky and couldn't help swallowing their saliva. Even the fire couldn't destroy the other side. What should they do next? Yes, the NS6 people used all means and lost all their pride. However, even so, as the strongest warriors of the NS6 people, although they were afraid in their hearts, they still picked up their weapons and rode the fire dragons under their crotches to launch a suicidal attack on the spacecraft like ants. "Kill!" the NS6 warriors shouted. Then, one by one, the NS6 warriors crashed into the spacecraft. The next second, when they hit the spacecraft, they were heavily shaken out by the powerful recoil force. This scene is like a moth flying into a flame. The ending can be imagined. In the end, it fell from the sky to the dense forest below. At this time, Lin Chen put away the smile on his face and contacted General Bit on the battleship next door. The communication started, and he said directly and ruthlessly, "Let's start." General Bit nodded. About a minute later, the battleship launched two 80-meter high dangerous wanderers. The battleship where Lin Chen was located launched 20 Mechas and 2 marine battalions with a total of 400 marines at one time. This is a dimensionality reduction attack from an advanced civilization. The dangerous wanderers, long series Mechas, and Marines have already appeared and have directly set off a bloody storm. The target of the two dangerous wanderers is the 6 warriors riding heavy horses on the ground. The huge machine body is like a hill. Every time it moves, it brings a dull boom sound to the ground, and I don't know how many trees it has kicked down. Energy cannon fire. Launch high explosive missiles. The driver and the dangerous wanderer launched a series of large-scale attacks. In the waves of explosions that rise and fall, I don't know how many 6 died tragically. Even so, the two dangerous wanderers did not cross the line in their crushing posture, and put all their energy on the 6 warriors on the ground. It was obvious that before Lin Chen and General Bitter discussed this battle. Both sides would eliminate the 6 warriors, and then the Marines, who were almost like human tanks, would capture Jack and the 6 chieftain. After the plan was about to be completed, the 6 would be baptized by firepower coverage, bombarding all the areas where the 6 were indiscriminately. The 6 warriors riding on fire dragons in the sky did not escape the blow of their own empire. The appearance of 20 Mechas almost became the gods of killing on the battlefield, constantly hunting one 6 after another in the sky. They seemed to be performing a gorgeous art, interpreting violence to the fullest. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Under the high mobility of the Mechas, the particle beam swords in their hands were like the sickles of the god of death harvesting souls, and no 6 could escape. At this time, 400 Marines also arrived on the ground by the elevator shaft. Their mission was to capture the rapist Jack. Attention, all units, anyone who obstructs can be shot at will. An order was transmitted to everyone's ears through the communicator. The Marines took steady steps, holding electromagnetic rifles in their hands, and headed towards the 6 tribe step by step, heading straight for the Navi's central area. They were like a real tank that gathered into a steel torrent, invincible all the way. The 6 chieftain also roared, "Warriors, shoot!" Immediately, a dense rain of arrows shot at the Marines, but the powerful power combat suits were simply beyond the understanding of these 6. Those arrows that they were proud of and the sharpest had the same fate as the shooting spacecraft. Apart from being able to make some crisp ting-ting sounds, they did not cause any damage at all. Fire! The Marines also launched a counterattack, pulling the trigger on the way forward. B. For a moment, the trees were blown to pieces, and some unlucky 6 were directly torn into flesh and blood by the spike bullets. Other 6 tribes screamed in panic. Many 6 people were like headless flies, and they were so scared that they hid. The chief stood there and was stunned. He never thought that humans would be so powerful. Not only were the sharpest arrows in the tribe useless, but even the fire could not hurt them. A trace of panic flashed through his heart, and he shouted, "All 6 people flee to the forest." Then, they began to flee, fleeing from this dangerous place. When the attack did not work, they could probably do the best they could. Jack stood there and was stunned. 6 people died from time to time around him, and he had lost the idea of escaping in his heart, because he knew human weapons too well. Whoever they wanted to kill, they had to die. Now that the other party has not really used weapons of mass destruction, but only sent a small force to advance towards the 6 tribe, then there is only one answer. Here is their mission target: to catch himself and return to the Blue Star to be judged by humans. The 6 Princess Neytiri pulled Jack's arm and shouted, "Jack, run!" The 6 people around were rushing into the forest, like frightened rabbits starting to flee. After all, the 6 warriors were being beaten by the other side's metal giants. Once those behemoths were free, the result would be unimaginable. Jack came to his senses and said hurriedly, "My wife, let's escape from this dangerous place." After saying this, the two 6 struggled towards the forest. But it was a step too late. The Marines had already formed a siege. A group of 200 Marines appeared on the Navi's escape route. They held electromagnetic rifles in their hands, as if they were the most indestructible natural barrier blocking the 6 from escaping from here. The captain shouted, "Open fire!" The ruthless firepower began to deprive one 6 after another who were about to escape. At this moment, many 6 who had not fled into the forest were trapped in the jar, losing all chances of escape. Because there were Marines in all directions to the west, and the encirclement was gradually narrowing. Every second, a 6 was killed by the tearing of spike bullets. After a long time, the gunfire stopped, and the fighting in various areas stopped. Thousands of the strongest warriors of the 6 died tragically. They died without closing their eyes under the technology of advanced civilization, and did not drag a single human with them. Only half of the N6 under the N6 sacred tree escaped into the forest, and the rest were cleared out by the Marines. The scene became quiet, but the dead bodies on the ground showed that a tragic massacre had taken place here before. No N6 body was intact. A large number of corpses were scattered in every corner of the scene, like purgatory, and blood flowed like a river. At the scene, except for the crackling sound of the burning branches, there was no other sound. The three N6 people, Jack, N6 chieftain and Princess Neytiri, were still alive and were standing helplessly under their sacred tree. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 354. Be gentle to Jack's wife. All this happened so fast that the three of them were caught off guard. When they just reacted, countless N6 people were already gone, beaten to a bloody mess by the hateful humans. The reason why only these three N6 were left behind was probably because the Marines showed mercy, because these three N6 had other uses. After all, in addition to the mission goal of capturing the rapist Jack, the other two N6 were obviously dressed differently, so these two must be N6 similar to the chief. The Marines' steps made a steady sound and surrounded the three N6. After comparing the information, it was indeed the rapist Jack. A captain reported. Report, the rapist Jack was captured. Lin Chen said. Well, send him to the Jianmeng spaceship. A group of Marines immediately tied up the three N6. Jack immediately yelled, Hey, be gentle, my wife Neytiri is pregnant, be gentle, you bunch of rude people, who, let go of my wife with your dirty hands. The Marines' faces immediately darkened. As expected. Not only did he betray humanity, but he also had sex with the N6 and reproduced the next generation. This rapist Jack is clearly a shame for humanity. He actually gave up his high and mighty status as a human being and mated with the extremely ugly N6. Crack, crack, a series of fist-clenching sounds. The Marines were furious and couldn't help but think of a scene where Jack knelt between the legs of a female N6 to reproduce. Someone could no longer control his temper and roared, beat him to death. Crackling. The rapist Jack was beaten in turn and was lying on the ground with a bruised face. Soon, the three N6 were taken to the battleship of the Jianmeng Empire, and Lin Chen followed. If it were in the past, when it was heard that Master Wan had beaten the Jianmeng people, this would definitely gradually turn into a small-scale conflict. But at this moment, when Jack, with a bruised face, was brought onto the warship, none of the Jianmeng people were angry, but instead showed a very relieved expression. Because Jack, the traitor, should be beaten, and as a human being, he has the right to beat him. At this time, a group of people were surrounding Jack and the three N6 were whispering something. General Bit looked at Lin Chen in confusion and asked, It's strange, the avatar is indeed Jack, but where is his human body? Didn't you say that only the connection cabin can control the avatar with thoughts? Yes, that's why I'm confused. The connection cabin in our base has been sealed and no one is using it. Forget it, let's go and ask. General Bit talked with Lin Chen for a long time, but he didn't come up with a result. After all, now they are going to capture the body of the traitor Jack back to the Azure Star to be judged by the whole world. On the one hand, it can also make everyone remember the consequences of betraying humanity, and on the other hand, it also shows the determination not to tolerate any traitor who betrayed humanity. General Bit took a few steps and came to Jack, whose face was bruised and swollen. He frowned and asked, Jack, where are you? Jack said, I'm here. I have given up my human identity and became a real N6 through the sacred tree. Now my life or death is up to you. I just want to ask you to let Neytiri go. Lin Chen and General Bit were both shocked and asked almost at the same time, What did you just say? You became a real N6? Jack retorted loudly, Yes, I'm disheartened. The reason I became an N6 was thanks to General Bit. I worked so that the two races could peacefully resolve the resource problem, but in return I was shot. Later, you plan to send me back to the Blue Star for trial. Your actions are chilling. General Bit was furious and roared, Bullshit, because of you, more than 200 people were killed. Do those soldiers deserve to die? Don't you want to take responsibility? Even so, I was still discussing with my assistant how to save you. As long as you killed the chief of the N6 and repented, it would be fine. But you left the N6 to kill thousands of fierce warriors at night. What else do you want to say, you traitor? Jack's expression froze, and he opened his mouth and said for a long time, "Are you saying that we were discussing how to save me at the time?" "Nonsense, otherwise why would I lock you up? After all, you were my soldier at the time." "But you..." The pupils of the traitor Jack contracted and shrank. He felt an immense pain in his heart, as if he was gradually losing something. It turned out that General Bit had planned to rescue himself from the beginning and had prepared the plan, but he betrayed mankind because he was discouraged. Was it always me who was wrong? No, I was not wrong. The mistake was the greedy human beings. In an instant, he immediately raised his head. Perhaps because of the problem of face, Jack questioned loudly. "Even so, I feel very disgusted with human behavior. I would rather be a 6 than a human. Humans only care about their own interests, but never care about the life and death of other races. Humans are just a group of termites among creatures." With a bang, Jack fell to the ground. Lin Chen put away his right foot and looked down at the rapist sitting on the ground. Jack asked, "Have you forgotten how your legs became disabled?" Jack said, "It was pierced by the tentacles of the mimic aliens." Lin Chen said, "At the time, you're a hero, fighting for the interests of mankind, but now you have betrayed mankind for the interests of other races. What qualifications do you have to say that humans are not right? There is only a difference between the strong and the weak and plunder between races." General Bit was very straightforward and said coldly, "Since you have become a real N6, anything I say is obviously redundant." Just when Jack and the other two were puzzled, General Bit and Lin Chen looked at each other. Then, several black gun barrels emerged from the hulls of the two warships, flashing dazzling light under the sunlight. A gust of wind came. It rolled up the N6 people's sacred tree, and the branches swayed violently, making a violent squeaking sound, as if this towering tree had life, and when it sensed a ray of crisis, it made its unique sound, as if praying or roaring. Energy cannon is fully charged. Turbo laser cannon is fully charged. The gun barrels extended from the two warships hit strong energy gathering, and the next second, more than a dozen dazzling beams of light went towards the N6 people's sacred tree. Boom boom, the thick sacred tree went straight into the sky. Even if the trunk could withstand wind and rain, it could not withstand the attack of advanced civilization. Especially for weapons that use energy as a means of attack. As the muzzle rotated, the thick sacred tree was directly cut in half by the energy beam, and the huge tree body smashed into the forest below, splashing huge smoke and dust and a strong earthquake. This is not over yet. Since Lin Chen and General Bit have come, they will not let the N6 people's sacred tree continue to survive, and they will make the N6 people completely despair. The shock missiles are loaded. The shock missiles are launched. A new round of attacks followed as expected. More than a dozen shock missiles hit the soil under the sacred tree, generating huge energy. After a while, the earth shook more strongly again, like a violent earthquake. The earth began to shake, and then the thick soil cracked into cracks, and it was getting bigger and bigger. Boom boom, the soil of the earth turned up, and more than a dozen gullies more than 10 meters deep appeared, and the tangled roots of the sacred tree also turned out of the soil and exposed to the sun. This area became extremely messy and visually impactful. But the hearts of countless N6 people fell into deep despair as Lin Chen expected. When the N6 who had managed to escape before saw the sacred tree cut in half and its roots exposed to the soil, they immediately became like deflated balls, and all their confidence in living and their desire for adventure disappeared without a trace. Chapter 355a. Spaceship of Unknown Origin. The sacred tree is the belief of the N6 people. Now that the sacred tree is gone, you can imagine how much of a shock it will cause to the N6 people. They fell to the ground in despair, looking at the direction of the sacred tree in the forest. Once there were dense branches there, it was not only the sacred tree of the N6 people, but also the home that the N6 people should be proud of. But now, it has become a bare piece, which is hard for the N6 people to accept. Mother Goddess. I hope those humans will not bring us disasters again. The N6 people who have lost the sacred tree will become rootless duckweed and will never have a home. The N6 people were crying and wailing, as pitiful as they could be. Equally pitiful were the 3 N6 people who were captured. Jack, who watched the sacred tree being destroyed by humans. Sitting on the floor, the N6 chieftain and Princess Neytiri, who were tied up, had their pupils dilated and stretched, and couldn't help crying loudly. No. The symbol of the N6 people is gone. Jack didn't have much feeling because he became an N6 halfway through. He was just angry at the greed and ruthlessness of the hateful humans. However, the chieftain and princess of the N6 had a very special relationship with the sacred tree. Now that the sacred tree was destroyed, the Tuna 6 struggled to get up from the ground and cursed. "You hateful humans, the Mother Goddess will not forgive any of you." Lin Chen raised his right hand. With a snap, a slap was slapped on Neytiri. Jack was furious and kept struggling, cursing. "Damn, my wife is already pregnant, please stop your rude behavior and be gentle to my wife Neytiri." Lin Chen said calmly and almost heartlessly, "You talk too much nonsense." After saying this, he turned around and said hello to General Bit, and then left the battleship with one of his guards and returned to the battleship. Now that Jack, the rapist, has been caught, there is no need to be cautious. In the sky, 2 warships launched a range attack on the forest below. A huge energy beam streaked across the ground, and a gully of more than 10 meters or even dozens of meters wide appeared. It was difficult to count how many Na-6 died. Other attacks continued. Incendiary bombs are ready. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Soon, under the effect of the incendiary bombs, the endless forest was on fire, and a sea of fire rose to the sky, as if it was born to burn the sins of the Na-6. It could not be extinguished for a long time. Instead, with the help of the wind, the speed of the fire spread increased. For a time, various attacks from advanced civilizations continued. In the forest, the Na-6 were almost driven to a dead end. They fled madly and wailed madly. "Help, help! Damn humans are all devils. Are they going to kill all of us Na-6? They blew up the sacred tree, and they are forcing us to a dead end." Under the attack of advanced civilization, for the Na-6, who are still in the primitive society stage, it seems that there is no other way except to flee. Even though they fled frantically, there were still a large number of old, weak, women and children who died tragically on the spot under various continuous attacks. The warships of the 2 forces, Imshin and Jianming, attacked the forest on the ground indiscriminately in the sky for a whole afternoon, causing hundreds of kilometers of forest to be razed to the ground. Only then did they stop and did not kill them all. They both returned to their locations. Jack and the other 3 Na-6 were dazed and panicked. However, General Bit paid special attention to these 3 Na-6. At least, he would not starve them to death before they received the due trial. At this time, in the endless forest of Pandora, countless Na-6 began to migrate. They had to stay away from the forest on which they depended for survival and migrate to farther places, because the number of Na-6 had dropped sharply to a terrifying number in the past few days. Even other Na-6 tribes had to join the migration army. It is obvious that humans have become a nightmare that can never be erased from the hearts of the Na-6 people, so they must stay away from humans. Otherwise, if they do not leave now for a short period of safety, they will definitely be killed by humans once they are discovered. The human forces are still mining on Pandora. Without the obstruction of the Na-6, the mining speed is much faster. On the other hand, the traitor Jack was almost beaten to death by the fierce warriors in private. On this day, General Bit heard that Lin Chen was going to return to the Azure Star to unload ore recently. In desperation, he had to hand over Jack and the other 3 Na-6 to Lin Chen and let him take them back to the Azure Star on his behalf. Otherwise, it is estimated that someday there may be a few hot-tempered warriors who beat Jack to death. And there is another reason why they dare not return to the Azure Star. The birth of the first traitor in human history is actually closely related to General Bit if you look into it. If it weren't for the Avatar plan that he had to show his strength, Jack might have stayed on the Azure Star forever and would not have come to Pandora, and he would not have become a traitor. General Bit and Lin Chen were old acquaintances, and they had known each other since the monster era. At the moment, it was not too embarrassing to ask Lin Chen for help, so he smiled and said, "Thank you for your help." Lin Chen asked, "No trouble, it's just on the way. Should we hand over this rapist to the World Congress or to Pussy?" General Bit said, "Just bring it back to the Azure Star, and our people will come to pick it up." Lin Chen nodded. A week later, Lin Chen and others left Pandora in a fleet ship full of ore. This fleet was going to bring the ore back to the Azure Star. The ship was not only carrying ore, but also that first rapist in human history. In the battleship, Dr. Shao also heard about the rapist's deeds, and also learned from Lin Chen why Jack betrayed humans. It can be said that falling in love with a female Na-6 occupied a large factor in betraying humans. It was difficult for her to understand all this. A person and an alien creature Na-6. What kind of strong psychology can be interested in having sex together and reproduce the next generation? Isn't it disgusting? Thinking deeply, Dr. Shao actually sympathized with Jack, or she saw herself in Jack when she'd first arrived at Pandora. At the time, she seemed to have almost the same views as Jack. Lin Chen teased, "Are you in the same boat?" Dr. Xiao smiled awkwardly and didn't explain anything. Rape. She would never be one in her life, and it was even more impossible for her to be like Jack, abandoning her human body and becoming a real N6. While the two were talking in the cabin, the fleet was still sailing in the vast universe, shuttling back and forth. The next day, Red Queen appeared on the screen and brought a big news. A spaceship was found ahead, and it is stranded in the route estimated by the fleet. The screen suddenly turned into a photo of the starry sky, with a blurry small square in it. As it was enlarged, a blurry photo appeared and gradually became clearer. Finally, a clear photo appeared. It was a photo of a spaceship, which was stranded in the starry sky and just occupied the root space of the Imperial fleet. Lin Chen asked, "Is it a spaceship from the Azure planet?" Red Queen said, "According to calculations, it is not." For a moment, the Empire's Third Joint Fleet was about to enter combat status. After all, it was a spaceship of unknown origin, and it was stranded in the space of the fleet's channel. Chapter 356. A powerful fleet emerges from the depths of the starry sky. Such a thing happened in the vast universe, and no one would think it was too simple. On the contrary, Dr. Xiao looked at the photo for a while, frowned, and seemed to have thought of something. He said uncertainly, "That seems to be the Covenant." Everyone looked at her in confusion. For Drive Xiao, this woman, many people did not regard her as an outsider. After all, everyone had been together in Pandora for a while, and Dr. Xiao was indeed a real talent. Although military industry was not her strong point, she was strong in other fields, including biology, plants, geology and so on. Otherwise, Dr. Xiao would not be the chief scientist of the Prometheus research ship. Lin Chen asked in surprise, "Covenant?" Dr. Xiao shook his head and said, "I have only heard of the Covenant before. It looks like a colony ship." Lin Chen was shocked, and many soldiers were shocked. It can be seen from Dr. Xiao's research ship Prometheus that their technology is not advanced. Under the firepower of the fleet, they were almost destroyed together with the alien spacecraft without any room for fighting back. As a result, Dr. Xiao suddenly said that the Covenant on their planet is a colonization ship. It's incredible. Dr. Xiao smiled awkwardly and said, "Of course it's not the kind of colonization like Pandora you understand, where you just grab whatever you like. The Covenant seems to be carrying some people to find habitable planets in space and settle down and develop." After saying this, everyone was reluctantly able to accept it. Rather than colonizing, as Dr. Xiao said, it's better to say exploration, taking humans to explore new planets. Lin Chen said, "So it's from your planet?" "If it's the Covenant, then it's from the same planet as me." Lin Chen smiled and said, "Then congratulations, Dr. Xiao, you can go home soon." Dr. Xiao shrugged and said, "Why go home? My wife is dead, and she is far from following you on that planet, which allows me to see the vastness of the starry sky. This is to express that you will not go home." What's more, Dr. Xiao's friends almost died on the LV-233 planet, and all her friends now are from the Wangxian Empire. Lin Chen smiled and said, "Then you are welcome not to go home. The Wangxian Empire will be your home in the future. However, can you send those 4 people back? They are different from me." Lin Chen accepted generously. "No problem." Or maybe it was because Dr. Xiao's face played a big role. Afterwards, if there were too many words, it would seem polite. Lin Chen notified the Red Queen, and the fleet would just sail as usual. Since Drive Xiao knew that spaceship, there was basically no danger. After a while, the fleet weapon system began to retract and continued to move forward according to the originally calculated route. At this time, a spaceship far away in the Gemini galaxy happened to be the Covenant spaceship mentioned by Dr. Xiao. Covenant. Colonial spaceship. Crew. 15 people. Dormant cargo hold. 2,000 colonists, 1,000 embryos. However, the spaceship was not calm at this time. Because the Covenant discovered a habitable planet, it should be a very happy thing. The 10 crew members immediately went down to explore excitedly, but they encountered all kinds of strange and unknown things on that planet, and as a result, they lost 7 crew members and fled back to the Covenant spaceship in a panic. What's more embarrassing is that due to the long exploration time on that strange planet, the energy at the Covenant spaceship was seriously consumed, so it was time to recharge the energy network of the Covenant spaceship not long after flying. Not long after the charging sailboard was opened, it encountered a stellar storm again, so the Covenant spaceship broke down and could only be stranded in this starry sky. At this time, several crew members of the Covenant spaceship were stupid. What should I do? The crew member in charge of maintenance died on that strange and unknown planet. For now, they had to watch the maintenance tutorial in the spacecraft while slowly carrying out various maintenance work. During the maintenance, the Covenant spacecraft captured a terrifying scene. They saw a fleet of large-scale spacecraft. That fleet shuttled through the vast universe, as if it came from the vast starry sky, full of mystery and unknown colors. Although the current distance is still far, the crew found a more terrifying picture, and the space around the fleet twisted. That was the warp engine. It turned out to be a fleet with a warp engine, and their direction was heading towards the Covenant. For a time, the crew of the Covenant breathed rapidly, and their hearts became more and more anxious, because that extremely powerful fleet made people have no resistance at all. And the other party's purpose is still unknown. However, the crew did not notice that one of the crew members who was retrieved from the strange planet was also the long-lost biochemical David. At this time, David had a new identity and impersonated the identity of crew member Walter. David's pupils shrank and contracted. It was that extremely powerful fleet again. What happened before was still vivid in his mind. Even now, he destroyed the planet where the engineers who created mankind lived with his own strength, calling himself the King of Kings. Even the gods had to admire his achievements. However, when he saw that extremely powerful fleet, he suddenly felt fear and restlessness. This was a feeling of being powerless to fight. He just remembered that the fleet was a human fleet, but it was cold and disgusted with him, and took Dr. Shao and others away. David became worried. If the Covenant came into contact with the other party, he would be finished. Immediately, his tone became a little flustered, and he said as if he was urging, "Go and repair the charging sailboard quickly, the other party must be here with bad intentions." The 7 crew members looked at him in confusion. Someone asked, "Walter, you're a cyborg, and you also know fear." The real Walter was a crew member of the Covenant. And David was a crew member of the Prometheus. The former was a loyal cyborg to humans, while the latter was a blackened cyborg. At this time, they didn't know that Walter in front of them had been replaced by David. The real Walter was dead, and the current Walter was just David's impersonation. David was going to take this Covenant to the human planet to do something big. David said, "No, I'm not afraid, but I'm worried about you. That extremely powerful fleet is coming towards us, and it's probably not well-intentioned." Everyone nodded and agreed with David's words. Then immediately, according to the method in the maintenance manual, they wore spacesuits and ran to outer space to repair the charging sailboard. As long as the charging sailboard was repaired and completely put away, the Covenant would escape from here at the fastest speed. Because the universe is too terrible, a fleet that appeared from the depths of the starry sky is about to come. However, the speed of the Covenant's repair was still a step late. Just when it was about to be repaired, the Empire's third joint fleet appeared nearby. When this fleet full of unknowns and power appeared, it immediately gave all the crew members on the Covenant spacecraft a feeling of being at a loss. Their hands and feet were cold and their scalps were numb. The starting point was immediately free, and it broke out all at once after the free. "Sorry, my hand speed is a bit slow to keep up, so I can only post 2 updates first, and then do it in bursts." Chapter 357 Madman. The most unwelcome thing finally happened. To put it bluntly, their Covenant is a colony ship, and there are many machine guns in the cabin. But what about the other side? If such a large fleet says that there are no super weapons, they will not believe it even if they are beaten to death. If the other side comes with bad intentions, then the Covenant ship will be beaten to pieces by the powerful firepower of the other side in a few seconds. The 7 crew members and the biochemical man who had signed that contract were terrified and panicked. Fortunately, they received the signal from the other fleet and breathed a sigh of relief. The signal sent by the other side was a human signal, and it was also a friendly signal. The crew cheered. "It's incredible, it's actually a human ship from another planet." But David couldn't cheer at all. In the fleet, Lin Chen sent a signal again, Eastern Standard Time, established communication with the Covenant, and explained everything, including the Prometheus. After the signal was sent to the Covenant, the crew was stunned. Is it the missing research ship Prometheus? It turns out that there are still survivors alive. At that moment, they opened the cargo hold of the Covenant spacecraft according to Lin Chen's request. Even if they had doubts in their hearts, they still did what the other party said, because the other party was too powerful, so powerful that there was no chance of resistance. Then, a Millennium Falcon flew out of the battleship and entered the Covenant spacecraft with the survivors of the former Prometheus. Everything went smoothly when entering the Covenant. Both the crew of the Covenant spacecraft and the crew of the Prometheus were extremely happy. Only David could not be happy at all. He could only pray anxiously behind his back that the fleet would leave quickly and never expose his identity. However, at this time, the powerful scanning system of the Red Queen in the Millennium Falcon was still running, but it captured a group of messages. The Red Queen immediately appeared beside Lin Chen and said, "Warning, there are unknown life forms on the Covenant spacecraft." Lin Chen and the Covenant spacecraft got in touch again and asked, "Does your spacecraft have other life forms besides humans?" The Covenant spacecraft also quickly responded, "There are also human embryos." Lin Chen hung up that communication and immediately notified the Millennium Falcon that was still in the cargo hold of the Covenant, asking the Marines inside to prepare for battle. Kikika. A team of Marines immediately took off the electromagnetic rifle mounted on their backs, pulled the bolt and prepared for battle, looking vigilantly at every corner of the cargo hold of the Covenant, and scanning everyone in the cargo hold of the Covenant. Suddenly the Marine team noticed David. The 4 survivors who were transferred also recognized David. David knew that he had been discovered, so he no longer concealed it. Instead, he smiled and said, "Yes, it's me, David." The crew members on the Covenant were suddenly shocked. How did Walter become David? It didn't look like a fake. Suddenly they all breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, a powerful fleet arrived, otherwise they might not know that Walter was David in disguise. The survivors of the Prometheus scolded, "David, I didn't expect you to run here from LV-233. David was no longer afraid, and with unconcealed madness in his words, he said, "I am the King of Kings, and even God will be impressed by my achievements. Do you understand? Just when you left LV-233, I personally drove a spaceship to destroy the world that created human engineers, and I also found creatures in this world that are more perfect than humans." The Marines watched David brag quietly without saying anything. David was instantly angry. This was completely different from the script he had imagined. Not only did these people not say anything, but they also cast a look at him like an idiot. "Damn it!" he shouted angrily, "don't go too far." Some of the 5 Marines didn't come over and said, "Keep bragging, I'll kill you when you're done." David panted and shouted, "Since you are so confident, you will pay the price for your blind confidence. Come out, my child." Then a monster appeared behind David. This monster was brought aboard the spacecraft when it was an embryo. After secretly growing, it has become the final evolution. Its head is a translucent shell with 6 fingers. It walks like a human. With a long tail and a strong body, it is obvious that this is a murderous alien creature. David said with regret, "What a pity. Since you have exposed my identity, there is no need to hide it. Go, my child, kill all these humans." A captain of the Marine Corps mocked, "Naive, do you think that an alien creature can escape in this universe? Can it escape from our fleet?" David said confidently, "I have never thought about escaping, and I know I can't escape, but my child will kill all of you before I die." Blind self-confidence. This is the confidence that David has because he has seen the horror of the alien creature with his own eyes. It's just a pity that he met this fleet again, otherwise he would definitely be able to destroy another human world. Soon, the alien creature behind David launched an attack. It is extremely fast and powerful. In a very short time, it swept a Marine with its thick tail. At this sudden moment, the other 4 Marines also pulled the trigger. The powerful firepower sprayed on the alien creatures, leaving them with nowhere to hide and nowhere to retreat. Dear, the spike bullets penetrated the alien creatures' bodies, tearing apart the bloody flesh, and splashing a lot of green liquid, which splashed on the Marines' power combat suits, making a hissing corrosion sound. David smiled and said confidently, "Its blood contains strong acid properties. If you kill it, you will also be corroded to death by the strong acid." However, the next second, what he expected did not happen. The strong acid was corroding the power combat suits, but its lethality was far from enough to corrode the power combat suits. After all, the power combat suits of the Marines were made by Lin Chen, and they were also known as human tanks, good brothers, etc. Therefore, the powerful performance was not something that could be corroded by the strong acid blood of the alien creatures. The captain of the Marine Corps ruthlessly mocked, "Oh, you're so good at bragging, I'm almost scared to death." David was stunned. His confident strong acid didn't cause any damage to the other party. He was immediately stupid. Afterwards, his face was still crazy, but it was replaced by another kind of crazy question, roaring, "You cheating shameless, dare to take off your combat uniforms, the alien creatures will definitely corrode you and leave only a pile of bones." Maybe you were right, but you will never see it again. The captain quietly looked at David, who was like a madman not far away, then waved behind him and said, "Take this lunatic out and throw him into outer space." Two Marines immediately stepped forward and forcibly lifted David. David punched and kicked and struggled to get rid of his body. He got rid of the two Marines and roared, let me go, you shameless people, don't touch me. If you have the ability, take off your combat uniforms and fight the alien creatures." But it was useless. At this moment, David was completely a psychopath in everyone's eyes. "Quick, open the isolation of the cargo hold, and then open the cargo hold door." Chapter 358. Don't be so rude. The crew of the Covenant immediately opened the door of the cargo hold of the Covenant, and the entire cargo hold became a vacuum state. David was still shouting like a madman, "You bunch of idiots, I'm the king of kings who even the gods have to bow down to, let me down." His body began to gradually deform under the influence of the vacuum, and the pressure on his body suddenly increased. Seeing this, the two Marines immediately threw David out of the Covenant. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, David's body, without wearing a spacesuit, suddenly became extremely large at the moment when his body entered outer space. The next second, it exploded without any sound, and exploded into a ball of blood mist. The crew of the Covenant was dumbfounded. This was actually a violent method. Later, the Marines officially handed over the survivors of the Prometheus to the Covenant. Several survivors expressed their gratitude. "Thank you." "There's no need to thank you, but with David's personality, I suggest you check the ship. Maybe there will be alien creatures." The crew of the Covenant said, "Definitely." Thinking of David's madness, everyone was terrified. Fortunately, they suddenly encountered a powerful human fleet and found David, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. Finally, just as the Millennium Falcon was about to leave, the captain of the Covenant seemed to have thought of something and asked loudly, "Where are you from? Will there be a chance to meet again in the future?" "We're from the Wangxi Empire of the Azure Star." The Millennium Falcon said this and flew out of the Covenant and returned to the Third Joint Fleet. The crew members on the Covenant stood in place, and the last words of the Millennium Falcon when it left kept exploding in their minds. The words have already indicated the origin of this fleet. Is it the Azure Star? After a long time, when everyone reacted, their faces were very serious, and they said in an affirmative tone, "It is definitely a planet with terrifying power, an empire with terrifying power." Of course, Lin Chen didn't know what happened on the Covenant, and he was not interested in knowing. He just returned a few useless packages to the Covenant. Soon, the fleet began to set sail again and headed for the Azure Star. After passing through the vast starry sky, familiar planets finally came into view, which indirectly indicated that the Azure Star was not far away. 56 hours later, the fleet of the Wangxi Empire returned to the Azure Star. And the Jianmeng Empire, as General Bit said, would have someone to pick it up. Everything went smoothly. The staff of the World Congress came to pick up Lin Chen, and after a few polite words, they took away the traitor Jack and the other Tuna 6. That night, Jiangxi personally made a sumptuous dinner for Lin Chen, and turned on the TV during the meal. It seemed that all the major TV stations had discussed it beforehand, and all of them were exactly the same. Just watch it. It's not easy to bring back the human rapist. Of course, the most concerned issue of people is broadcast. Jiangxi said as she served the food, just like a housewife. The kind who can go out to the hall and do that. The TV was also broadcasting the content about the human rapist Jack. I heard that it was a report about the human rapist Jack. There are 10 billion online viewers, and only 2 billion people are almost enough to reach the scale of global viewing. The hosts of various countries appeared in front of the camera, smiling and said, "Hello, friends in front of the TV, maybe you have been paying attention to the information of the first human rapist Jack in human history. First of all, I want to tell you an unfortunate news. According to the reply given by the World Congress, it is the human rapist Jack who has abandoned his human identity and became an A6. Yes, it is an A6 body." As soon as this was said, everyone in front of the TV was in an uproar. Abandoning the identity of a human and becoming an A6, is it true or not? For alien creatures like A6, now both the Wangxi Empire and the Jianmeng Empire have stored a lot of information about A6 in the alien information database. So many people understand what kind of species the A6 are. Their skin is blue, but they are not the Smurfs in fairy tales, but an ugly creature about 3 meters tall and without hair all over their bodies. At this moment, they suddenly heard the reporter say that Jack gave up his human nature and became an A6. Countless people suddenly felt like they wanted to kill that rapist immediately. He actually gave up his human identity. As expected, rapists deserve to die. The reporter behind him said again, "Okay, let's follow that camera to learn more about Jack's rape, so that the world will remember the consequences of being a rapist." The camera turned and appeared in a cell. There were 6 people in the cell. Hearing that he would be interviewed and watched by the global audience like a monkey, Jack covered his head with his hands and refused to be photographed by reporters. In desperation, a large group of reporters' eyes suddenly lit up and set their sights on N6 Princess Neytiri. This is a female N6, and from the mouths of the World Parliament staff, they learned that it was Jack's wife who was raped and was pregnant. Her slightly bulging belly was the best proof. This is definitely a big revelation. The audience in front of the TV likes to watch these things and want to hear what the process is like. A large group of reporters from all over the world immediately asked the guards by name to release Jack's wife, who raped him, for an interview. The World Congress originally wanted to execute the 6 people directly in the spirit of humanitarianism, but the interviewers led by the Wangxi Empire and the Jianmeng Empire. They had no choice but to agree to this request. 2 guards opened the cell and went to the N6 Princess Neytiri. This scene once left the audience around the world speechless. No matter how they looked at it, it felt like a plot from a series of movies in the former Indo Kingdom. After a while, the 2 guards were ready to bring Neytiri out. Neytiri was handcuffed and shackled, which made it difficult for her to move. Her body was restricted. Even so, when she saw 2 ugly humans trying to touch her, she immediately slapped them and cursed. "Are you devils? Let me go, don't touch me, I'm pregnant, take your dirty hands away." The chief of the N6 people was also furious and shouted, "You despicable humans, let my daughter go, don't even think about insulting her, just kill the 3 of us N6. The rapist Jack was even more excited. At this moment, he was in the body of a N6, and there was almost no difference between him and the N6. His face was full of anger. After all, Neytiri was his wife, and now she was being taken out by 2 men to be interrogated by human reporters. He was so angry that he kept shouting, "What do you want to do to my wife? Let her go, she's pregnant, take your dirty hands away, don't be so rude, be gentle to my wife." Below the TV was the translated text of various countries. Global audience. This translation is interesting, full of the sense of déjà of some movie clips. The faces of the 2 guards at the scene suddenly darkened. What are they talking about? It was as if the 2 of them were going to take Jack's wife away to do something shameful. To a female N6? They thought that everyone would fall in love with this ugly creature like Jack. Apart from anything else, even if Neytiri was stripped of all her private parts, as humans, they would not have any heartbeats, but would only feel disgusted. Then the 2 guards took Neytiri out of the cell without saying anything and handed her over to the reporters for an interview. Reporters from all over the world kept looking at this 3-meter-tall female N6, and some cameras were also filming Neytiri from all angles. Chapter 359 Regret Medicine. After the close-up, the reporters began to ask questions. At the beginning, the atmosphere was quite heated. "According to reliable information, you are the princess of the N6, right? I heard that you N6 killed thousands of humans overnight. Is this the cruelty of the N6? How did you have an affair with Jack?" The reporters asked questions and pointed to the microphone of Neytiri. Neytiri was not very proficient in human language. There were many words that she could not speak or understand, but she understood the word affair. At this time, these ugly humans pointed a stick at her and said affair. She felt bad. Could it be that these humans were attracted by her beauty and were going to defile her? The more Neytiri thought about it, the more she felt it made sense, and the more she thought about it, the more scared she felt. She almost subconsciously closed her legs tightly together, and roared with a crazy look and fangs and claws. "You damned humans, go!" Roaring, her hands, which were tightly bound by handcuffs, suddenly hit a reporter. The reporters dodged in a hurry. Afterwards, the reporters faced the camera with lingering fear and said, "Did the audience in front of the TV see this? This is the face of the N6. It shows how cruel the N6 are. Now I seem to understand why we humans have to kill the N6 on Pandora, because we humans are fighting violence with violence. In short, everything is the fault of other species. Humans are never wrong, and their actions are always right. Even if they do something wrong, they will definitely be right in the end." This scene was seen and felt by the audience in front of the TV. The reporter was just asking questions, but the N6 suddenly lost his temper. It can be seen that they are indeed not a kind race. Kill the N6. Why should such an ugly creature be allowed to live? An uncivilized civilization that only knows how to kill cannot survive for a long time. I have played with many women in my life and I'm a little tired of it. Suddenly I became interested in seeing the NIS6 because I like climbing mountains and it is full of excitement. The audience in front of the TV spoke passionately, and there was no lack of natural pride in being human. Maybe it was God's will that humans should be the protagonist race in the universe. Compared with these aliens with random looks, humans are absolutely perfect creatures. The next day, the World Congress formally tried the crimes of the three NIS6. As the first rapist in human history, Jack was definitely the focus of the world. The trial scene was even larger than the scale of a superstar's concert, except that one was cheering and the other was scolding. Even so, Jack was proud. It was worth his life to be able to show his face like this. Maybe he would still be mentioned many years later. A staff member said, "Jack, although you have become a rapist, in the spirit of humanitarianism, we still brought your father here so that you and your son can have a talk." Jack said, "Thank you." Soon, Jack and the three NIS6 were brought into the trial hall. Not only people from all walks of life were sitting in the hall, but also Jack's father, Jerry. When Jack saw his father again, his mood can be imagined, especially when the whole world had abandoned him. His nose was sour and he wanted to cry instantly. He hurried forward and said excitedly, "Father, I am so happy to see you again." Jerry said contemptuously, "Go away, you ugly creature, stay away from me." He is Jack's father, but he has no idea that the ugliness sits in front of him is his son Jack. He just feels very disgusted. Jack quickly explained, "Father, I'm Jack, but I have given up my human identity and become a real NIS6." Fortunately, after the explanation of the staff on the scene, Jerry realized that the blue NIS6 in front of him, about 3 meters tall, was actually his son. He couldn't believe it. He was so angry that he couldn't believe it. Jerry yelled, "Fuck, what the hell have you done? You betrayed the interests of mankind, and ended up becoming a NIS6. You unfilial descendant, why did your mother and I give birth to you? I should have pulled you out and sprayed you on the wall when you were still a tadpole. Father, I know I'm going to die, please forgive me, but I want to tell you a good news before I die." Jerry was stunned for a moment and asked with a gasp, "What good news?" Jack pointed to the slightly bulging belly of the NIS6 Princess Neytiri and said, "Father, you are going to be a grandfather. My wife Neytiri is pregnant." Puff Jerry was so angry that he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Many people at the scene, "Oh, asshole, you are not worthy of being my son, and I can't have a hybrid offspring, and the noble bloodline of humans can't be tainted." Jerry was furious and was about to hit Jack, who was more than 3 meters tall, with his cane in his hand to find out the depression in his heart, but at the critical moment, he was stopped by the chief at the NIS6. After all, Jack is his son-in-law. Even if he dies, he must maintain the dignity of his son-in-law and the dignity of the NIS6 people, and cannot let humans insult him wantonly. The chief said proudly, "Human, Jack is already my NIS6, no longer your son, please show some respect." Jack repeatedly explained to the chief, "Father, this is also my father, the father of my human body." Jerry interrupted the conversation between Jack and the chief directly and roared, "Damn it, you still recognize the thief as your father." After saying this, he gasped heavily and was very angry. Because his face had been raped by Jack and he was embarrassed. His own son betrayed humanity, gave up his human body and became a NIS6. Later, he had sex with the NIS6 and gave birth to the next generation. In the end, he recognized the thief as his father. After this, how could he face people and live in the world? Jerry stood there and became more and more angry. The more he thought about it, the more ashamed he felt. After a long time, his face changed drastically. With a thump, he fell to the ground. His son, who was raped by him, was so angry that he lay on the ground and lost all his life. The staff around him immediately came forward to check and concluded that he was angry to death because of the attack. It was self-evident who was angry to death. No. The raped Jack screamed in despair. The long-lost family affection instantly surged into the depths of his soul. Jack wanted to touch his father's body, but was stopped by the staff on the scene at the first time. The dirty NIS6 were absolutely not allowed to touch the holy body of humans. Jack's whole body had collapsed. The 3-meter-tall body was no longer straight. Even before, he could still stand up straight even after being beaten. Now, his biological father was pissed off to death by him, which made his NIS6 body no longer straight, or he was no longer qualified to be proud. What did I do wrong? Jack shed tears of regret. He once thought that even if he betrayed humans, he would die in the end. But now he was wrong. His father was pissed off to death by him. The long-lost family affection made him feel miserable. At this time, the rapist Jack was like a soul-lost old man, sitting on the ground, his face dull, stupid, and constantly mumbling something. Obviously, his father's body was less than 2 meters, but he seemed to be separated from it by a natural chasm and could never touch it. He regretted that he should not have done those ugly things. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in the whole universe. After a while, the trial meeting on the scene officially began. Secretary General Lasek Holola personally interrogated Jack for his various crimes. Jack Sally colluded with the NS6 and others and did things that seriously endangered the interests of mankind. He is now formally charged with rapist. Jack confessed to his crimes and lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong. He looked very pitiful. Chapter 360. The freak of the Empire's rapid development. Don't look at Jack's appearance, but no one sympathizes with him. It is true that there must be something hateful about pitiful people, and Jack's current situation is all his own fault. Soon, the World Congress, upholding the common voice of mankind all over the world, sentenced Jack to death by firing squad, while the chieftain of the NS6 people and the Princess Neytiri were sentenced to death by firing squad for instigation and murder. That night, the World Congress issued a notice to the world. Tomorrow, 3 NS6 culprits including Jack will be executed. For those who betrayed humanity, the Azure Star will never tolerate them. As soon as the news came out, countless people around the world applauded. This result is great. It's a pity that if the NS6 princess was handed over to me, the maid in the other world would be happy. All rapists deserve to die. Okay, this sentence is great, and every rapist must be severely punished. No one questioned the result given by the World Congress. Jack's behavior was really disgusting. Not only did he betray humanity, but he also gave up his human identity and became an NS6. Such a beast deserves no pity. The most excited people were the Jianmeng people of the Jianmeng Empire who had been waiting for the news for a long time. Ever since the traitor Jack appeared, they felt that the Jianmeng people were inferior to others. And now, after Jack was sentenced to death, the confidence of the Jianmeng people has returned. They raised their proud chests again. There is no need to be timid, because they are proud Jianmeng people, the protagonist race of the universe. The next day, 3 people including Jack were executed by firing squad. At the time of the execution, the 3 NS6 were very calm, or even if all struggles were in vain. After all, the 3 NS6 appeared on the human planet. They were 3 aliens. Even if the NS6 were victims, there was nothing they could do. Are the 3 aliens going to reason with all mankind in the human world? Bang bang bang. After 3 gunshots, the 3 NS6 fell to the ground and lost all signs of life. At this point, the matter of traitors was finally over. And the appearance of traitors made the human side furious, without any leniency. The news that the rapist was shot was like an unprecedented hurricane that swept across the entire blue planet in a very short period of time. Countless people applauded and thought it was right. As time went by, the heat about the rapist Jack slowed down. The world returned to its once peaceful life, as if it had returned to the era before the monsters. People were still busy, but people all over the world did not forget the fact that humans had entered a period of rapid development. After dinner, they talked about outer space, and countless resources in the vast starry sky were also taken by humans. Of course, all this had little to do with Lin Chen. He put all his energy on the system's tasks, but it was so difficult to fight a war between races. First of all, it was very difficult to find a civilized alien race in the vast universe. However, although the mission did not make any progress, today he unexpectedly received news that the first batch of spaceships manufactured by the Blue Planet were about to be delivered. Xinhua Star. Lin Chen looked at Fan Ki beside him in confusion. He felt that he had never heard of this planet. It's the planet where we helped to eliminate the Kowat aliens. Oh, that's it. Lin Chen then remembered Xinhua Star. It seems that there was an agreement before that Azure Star would provide technology and Xinhua Star would provide manpower and material resources to jointly manufacture spaceships, and half of the manufactured spaceships would become the property of the Wangxin Empire. Lin Chen asked, how many Millennium Falcons are there? Because the technology was not to be leaked, Azure Star only provided some low-level spaceships. It did not mention the huge ships like assault ships and battleships, just to ensure its own advantages. Fanky smiled mysteriously and said, not many, only 60 will be delivered to us. Lin Chen was speechless. When the news spread, the happiest was the 3rd Legion. The more spaceships they had, the more soldiers they would have to become soldiers of the 3rd Fleet after the evolution. Not long after, 60 Millennium Falcons entered Azure Star and entered the Wangxian Empire. All the handovers of the spaceships went smoothly. The head of Xinhua Star excitedly shook Lin Chen's right hand and said with a smile, "Long time no see, Mr. Lin. Long time no see." A total of 120 Millennium Falcons were built in the first batch. According to the agreement between the two parties, 60 ships have come. Lin Chen smiled and said, "Happy cooperation. Who wouldn't like a planet with such a large labor force to build ships for the Empire?" However, although it should be a very happy thing that the Empire once again welcomed a batch of ships, a more troublesome problem also emerged. Where should so many ships be parked? In the past, when there were fewer ships, they could be squeezed in. But now it is different. 2 battleships comparable to battleships are just behemoths with a diameter of 3,000 meters. There are 2 such ships, 4 assault ships with a length of 700 meters, and countless Millennium Falcons with a diameter of more than 30 meters, more than 100. Putting so many ships together obviously caused the problem of limited space. In addition, other legions also received news from somewhere, and they were jealous. Those who were close drove here, and those who were far away took fighter jets. There was only one purpose, to get a share of the ships. If it was okay before, after all, there were only so many spaceships, it would be okay to let the 3rd Legion take advantage of them, but now they clearly already have a fleet. And now there are 60 Millennium Falcons. Are they going to include these spaceships in the establishment of the Imperial 3rd Legion? Oh, no, they are now affiliated with the 3rd Fleet of the Space Force, with a high-end combat number. How could they be a rubbish number like the 3rd Legion that is frustrating and ugly? The other 14 legions were not only envious, jealous and hateful, but also very sad. These legion leaders seem to have discussed it in advance, almost rushing into the commander's office one after another, and directly stated their intentions. "I don't care, I want the spaceship. When I came here, I swore to the soldiers that I must bring the spaceship back this time. Me too, why should the benefits be given to others, and we should pick up the leftovers of others as treasures? If you don't give it to me, I will refuse to leave." The legion leaders kept slapping their hands on the table and shouting wildly. Each of them had sufficient reasons, and they couldn't continue to watch others eat meat. The command office also came up with a good solution at once, and replied in an official manner, "Okay, we will consider it, you can go back first." This problem has actually been a problem that has always troubled the command office. This is a spaceship, not a tank or an airplane, which can be given at will. What's more terrible is that the command office is only responsible for weapons, equipment, logistics, combat and other issues. Spaceships have only been around for a short time and have developed too fast, so they are not under the jurisdiction of the command office at all. They are all divided by the spaceship bases of Lin Chen and Fanqi. So this kind of thing is a problem for both the command office and the spaceship base. Although the speed of spaceship manufacturing is very fast, all weapons such as tanks and fighter planes have been suspended for this reason, and all resources are heavily tilted towards the spaceship base. However, it is precisely because of this that spaceships have become a freak in the rapid development of the Empire. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 361 Construction of a large shipyard. At the moment, a group of Legion commanders came to ask for spaceships, and the command office had no choice but to use this pertinent reply. However, the Legion commanders were so angry that their faces turned red and their necks became thick. This kind of fooling reply is the most irritating. At least give an approximate time. "No, we won't leave unless we come up with a result today," the Legion commander shouted again. The command office really had no choice but to ask Jiang Minjian. Jiang Minjian's head almost exploded after hearing this news. He also had to understand that those Legion commanders were unbalanced, but where could he get so many spaceships? After an urgent consultation, there was no result. Jiang Minjian had no choice but to wave his hand and said, "Call Lin Chen and Fanqi to me." The next day, Lin Chen and Fanqi came to the command office with puzzled faces. As soon as they entered the door, they found that the atmosphere was wrong. At the intersection of their eyes, the scene in the conference room was very messy. Many Legion commanders present were breathing heavily, and their faces were blue and red, and Jing Minjiwan's face was very gloomy. Fanky tugged at Lin Chen's clothes, indicating that he was Jing Minjiwan's future son-in-law, and asked directly if he had anything to say. Lin Chen's attitude was neither humble nor arrogant, and he asked firmly, "Uncle, what is the matter with you calling me here?" Jing Minjiwan rubbed his eyebrows and said, "Well, you and Fanky take a seat first." Lin Chen asked again. "This is, again," Jing Minjiwan said. "You just need to know it in your heart, you don't need to say what happened here just now." Lin Chen. It was obvious a long time ago that something unsolvable must have happened again, and then these ruffians once again used the most primitive way to solve the problem. These people are jealous of the 60,000-year falcons delivered by Xinhua Star. How do you say we should distribute them? What do you mean by how? The third joint fleet is not full yet. How long will it take before the other legions can reform? Others are afraid of these rough legion commanders, but Lin Chen is not. He said seriously. According to the current construction speed, the third joint fleet can reach the saturation of spacecraft in a year. Jing Minjiwan turned his head and scolded the legion commanders. "Look, it will be your turn in a year. What are you in a hurry for? Go back to where you came from." Lin Chen said, "I am here to build a large shipyard this time. The spaceship base is too small. We need to build a huge shipyard to build spaceships." Large shipyard. Jing Minjiwan did not refuse, but was thinking about the address, thinking of a suitable place to build a shipyard. Since Lin Chen proposed it, let's solve it together. What's more, it is impossible for the large spaceship to be in the orbit of the Azure Star every time the spaceship comes back. If there is any danger, it will be a hassle for the soldiers to return to the large spaceship. Moreover, the shipyard is the most important thing, and it must be built in the safest place. Liang Shizong asked, "If a large shipyard is built, will the speed of building spaceships be much faster?" Fanky said, "Not much faster, but very fast. The scientists we want back from the planet of Resident Evil have not yet exploded the scientific and technological dividend. There are more than 40,000 scientists, and a large number of students from the Academy of Sciences. These can continuously enter the shipyard to build spaceships for us." Jing Minjiwan thought about it and said, "Why not stay in Jij City?" The Minister of Internal Affairs shook his head repeatedly. Jij City is absolutely safe, but there is simply not enough space to build a shipyard. The Mecha base and the spaceship base occupy a lot of space. To build another shipyard, all the people in Jij City must be relocated. On the contrary, the Minister of Foreign Affairs made a good suggestion and said, "Don't we have a Millennium Plan, the Kushongan Special Zone? Before the advent of the Monster Era, we had to suspend the construction work. Now that we are doing construction, can't we just use that special zone?" Everyone's eyes lit up. This idea is great. Kushongan Special Zone is located in the hinterland of Guodu, Tianjin, and GF City, covering an area of 2,000 square kilometers. What kind of shipyard cannot be built, and what size of spacecraft cannot take off and land? More importantly, it is safe and the distance is very close. Jing Minjiwan's face flushed with excitement. Now that the address of the shipyard has been settled, it seems that he has seen the scene in the near future where the fleet from the Empire will sweep across the entire universe. At the time, all aliens will not be able to escape the fate of being enslaved or exterminated. Jing Minjiwan was excited, and he waved his hand and said domineeringly, "That's it, all the previous construction plans of Kushongan Special Zone will be pushed to me. A giant shipyard must be built within 5 months, and strive to build the largest spacecraft in the fastest time. At the time, what is the Andromeda Galaxy? I will personally lead the Empire's invincible fleet and conquer a large territory in the Virgo supercluster. Isn't it great?" Everyone offered the most sincere flattery, and Jing Minjiwan seemed to be walking in the clouds. Lin Chen ruthlessly attacked at the right time. "Uncle, forget it, stop dreaming, and deal with the things in front of you first. I vaguely remember that Jing Minjiwan died in the joint attack of the Alien Alliance and the Zerg. It was the Virgo supergroup, and the peak of mankind was just the overlord of the Andromeda Galaxy." The atmosphere in the conference room suddenly changed. Many people present looked at Lin Chen with a weird look. Apart from other things, apart from official business, Jing Minjiwan's identity can be regarded as Lin Chen's prospective father-in-law. It's okay if he doesn't flatter and cater to him, but he also deliberately sabotages him. Jing Minjiwan's face was embarrassed, he coughed lightly, and said in a deep voice, "Okay, all troops should hurry up to build the shipyard. If there is not enough manpower, transfer people from the major legions. Since Jing Minjiwan agreed, the construction of the shipyard in the Wang's Empire was quickly approved. In the next few days, Wang's Empire mobilized several construction teams from several directions, with a huge scale, totaling more than 100,000 people, with only one purpose, to build the best shipyard in the shortest time. At this time, 100,000 engineering teams gathered here. They demolished all the previously built and unbuilt buildings in Krishongan Special Zone. According to the plan given above, they wanted to build a very large shipyard, but first of all, before the construction drawings came down, they had to pour cement on the 2,000 square kilometers of land. Soon, with the coordination of various departments, the houses were demolished and the artificial lake was filled. From the satellite in the sky, the construction team here worked day and night, just like a group of hard-working little ants working back and forth. In a whole month, the once sensational Krishongan Special Zone was gone, without any buildings, replaced by a bare piece. At a glance, the very flat cement road was hard to see through to the end. This day was the third day after the completion of the first phase. The cement road was dry, and the engineering teams were waiting in the temporary tent for the next task from above. After a long time, the Deputy Interior Minister was in charge of the entire project. He brought a precise blueprint and summoned all the engineering team leaders to start assigning tasks. They were going to officially build a shipyard. After the tasks were assigned, the heads of the engineering teams of various countries were happy to accept the order. It was just to build the building according to the blueprint, which was not too complicated. The Deputy Interior Minister called again to inform other departments that they could also take action. For a time, the military-industrial model of the Wang's Empire officially began to operate. During this period, the mining mission on Pandora continued in an endless stream. However, the Wang's Empire will not only be ranked here, because there are countless new material elements and scarce resources in the vast starry sky, all waiting for the Empire to mine. So, a new round of exploration missions began to be quietly planned while keeping the shipyard from slacking off. On this day, exploration tasks were assigned in the spaceship base. In this exploration, 5 Millennium Falcons will be dispatched to enter the starry sky and enter different galaxies. On the one hand, it is to draw star maps, interstellar coordinates, and on the other hand, it is to find new material elements. Soon, the 4 Millennium Falcons had candidates for the mission, all of whom were people that Lin Chen trusted, and some of them were from the Mecha base or the spaceship base. When waiting for the last person, Dr. Xiao volunteered, stood up and said, "I'll go." Lin Chen said, "Okay, then let Dr. Xiao go for me. Remember, if you find danger, you must retreat as soon as possible. Your mission is exploration, not other things. If you find other creatures, wait for the main force or retreat." Everyone nodded. This mission is different from the past. The fleet will not be dispatched directly, and there are certain unknown risks. Chapter 362. The British Alliance's individual armor project. The reason why the entire fleet was not dispatched was because there were no ships to be assigned. The current fleet acted as cargo ships to transport ore between the two planets, and would not be satisfied with the resources of just one Pandora planet. Therefore, only a few Millennium Falcons were dispatched for this mission, and the Millennium Falcons would be dispersed to different star regions. The final dispatch mission was completed. A week later, while the shipyard was still under construction, 5 Millennium Falcons landed at the spacecraft base one after another. Lao Wang, Dr. Xiao and others were also ready to explore new planets, with energetic expressions on their faces, showing a strong excitement. Lin Chen warned everyone, "Be careful along the way." Everyone agreed happily, but in fact they didn't take it to heart. They were going to conduct scientific research and explore new elements, not to start a war with the creatures of a certain planet, so there would be no danger. Even if there was danger, as long as they were in the spacecraft Millennium Falcon, any danger could be turned into a safe place. After a while, each scientist entered a Millennium Falcon, and they had to enter different galaxies to perform their missions. Finally, 5 Millennium Falcons took off, rushed into the sky and disappeared into the blue star. At this moment, the Wang's Empire's grand move quickly attracted strong onlookers from all over the world. It seems that the Wang's Empire has plundered a lot of dividends from outer space. It actually began to build a large shipyard with a radius of 2,000 square kilometers and plundered on a large scale. Many people deeply know that the Wang's Empire and the Jianmeng Empire are now in the leading stage of plundering resources from outer space, but they never thought that their appetite has become so big. Build a shipyard with a radius of 2,000 square kilometers to prepare for the large-scale construction of spacecraft. The world is shocked. After Pussy received this news, a slight arc appeared at the corner of his mouth, and gradually his smile became more and more unbridled. It seems that the Wang's Empire can't stand the loneliness and is ready to show its strength. Haha, is the Wang's Empire worthy of owning such a large shipyard? In this case, as the leader of the pretending world and the leader of the strength world, of course I have to teach them how to be a man. On that day, the Jianmeng Empire held a global press conference, inviting thousands of journalists from all over the world. Pussy was passionate and enthusiastic at the press conference. Now, on behalf of the Jianmeng Empire, I announce to the world and the currently known human world that the Jianmeng Empire is about to build a supergiant base of the times, which will include Mechas and warships. Its area is 4,000 square kilometers. The construction of the base is inevitable. Its birth will speed up the construction of spaceships to realize the domination of the entire universe by the Jianmeng Empire. He boasted wildly. During the period, he used the means he was always good at, belittling the Wang's Empire and finally elevating the Jianmeng Empire as the savior and beacon of mankind. Please see the 3D simulation effect map below. Pussy pressed the button of the remote control in his hand in front of many reporters and many audiences. Suddenly, the table in front of him burst into soft blue light, and soon, these blue lights formed a virtual dynamic 3D of the base. These blue lights gathered together to form a scaled-down virtual base map, which included pictures of spaceships taking off and landing. The effect of the 3D animation demonstration was perfect. The reporters were stunned, all of them were shocked by such a big move. They all felt that the shipyard built by the Wang's Empire was already very awesome, but compared with the base planned to be built by the Jianmeng Empire, it was simply weak. At this moment, all the viewers in the Jianmeng Empire who were watching TV clenched their fists excitedly. They hadn't been so excited for a long time. The Jianmeng Empire is the strongest. In the future, with the spaceship base constantly building spaceships, our Jianmeng Empire will become the overlord of the universe. Every Jianmeng person was excited. The confidence and arrogance of the overlord level once again descended on every Jianmeng person. And Pussy did not break his promise. After the press conference, he immediately began to plan the construction of the new base. In short, if the Wang's Empire has it, the Jianmeng Empire must have it and be stronger. Even if the Wang's Empire does not have it, the Jianmeng Empire must have it. In the field of showing strength, Pussy has never taken anyone seriously. After the Wang's Empire, the Jianmeng Empire held a heavy press conference to claim to build a supergiant base, which undoubtedly shocked countless people around the world. At this time, the Sun Never Sets Alliance was shrouded in a dark cloud. It was not that the Sun Never Sets Alliance suffered any disaster, but it was insulted. In the past, it was fine that the Mechas could not compare with others, but now even the spaceships could not compare with the other party, especially now that there is a demand for shipyards. But looking at the Sun Tribal Alliance, there are only a few spaceships, and they have only reached the level of the spaceships of the star system. They can't catch up with them. William, one of the leaders, said, "We can't continue to sink." Another leader, Naran, said, "We must think of a countermeasure, otherwise we will fall behind step by step." Suddenly, William's mind flashed, and he thought of a wonderful idea. Since the number and quality of spaceships cannot compare with the Wang's Empire and the Jianmeng Empire, we can play to our strengths and avoid our weaknesses. Starting from the precise individual armor, we can beat all individual armorers. William expressed his idea and was immediately agreed by Naran. This is a good idea. Anyway, it has become a fact that we can't compete with the other party in terms of spaceships and Mechas, so the Sun Never Sets Alliance will start from other places. Precision single soldier armor is a very good direction. As long as we can develop an armor comparable to that of Superman, the British Alliance will be truly a country where the sun never sets. Soon, the direction of this single soldier armor was handed over to the person in charge of the secret base of the British Alliance. The person in charge also attached great importance to this matter, because everyone wants to reproduce the glory of the past. As time went on, the secret base broke out with extremely high enthusiasm for work. After continuous improvement of information and supplementary opinions, a single soldier armor project that was perfected in just 2 days was once again submitted to William and Naran for approval. Project: Single soldier armor. Function: armor comparable to that of Superman, which can ignore any enemy. Technical parameters: XXX. William and Naran were confused and could not figure out what was going on. The person in charge explained, "This is the most sophisticated technology. The individual armor is a metal box in non-combat mode, and in combat mode, it only takes 10 seconds to prepare. Put your hands into the box, and the armor will appear in a form that covers the whole body. It is the same principle as the armor in the movie Iron Man. William and Nara both took a breath of cold air. If they could make something like the Iron Armor, the British Alliance would be able to reproduce its former glory. The person in charge smiled awkwardly and said, "Of course, the performance is not as exaggerated as Iron Man. Simply put, this suitcase is the armor. You just need to rub your hands into the box. At the same time, our spacecraft will launch a stream of fairy vine energy to the armor in space to provide it with kinetic energy." Naren was surprised and said, "Wait, what did you say? There must be a spacecraft in space." The person in charge said, "Yes, the spacecraft needs to launch a stream of fairy vine energy to the armor to ensure that the individual armor is comparable to Superman." William did not make any statement, but frowned instead. The explanations given by the person in charge unconsciously gave rise to a picture in his mind, as if he had seen it somewhere before. He thought about it for a long time and finally figured it out. What he said was almost the same as the armor hero in the cartoon of Wang Xin Empire. It seemed that the only difference was that there was only one belt transformation device and one suitcase transformation device. As for other things, such as the transformation required the spacecraft to shoot energy to fight, it was almost the same. Chapter 363. The birth of the Sensei Yard project. After a while, William opened the computer web page and searched for Armor Hero. Then, he clicked on the play, turned the notebook, and asked, "Is it similar to this kind of armor that transforms?" The screen was showing a person transforming into the Wind Eagle armor. The belt was exposed, and he was posing. The spaceship in space shot out an energy ray, and the transformation was successful. Regardless of whether it can be used in combat, it is very cool. The person in charge nodded and said, "Yes, it is almost the same theory. It is also a spaceship in space that emits an energy ray. The only difference is probably that the transformation device is different." William and Naren, the two supreme leaders of the Sun Never Sets Alliance, were immediately dissatisfied. "This single soldier armor looks very similar to a cartoon. Isn't it embarrassing enough? And even if it is very powerful and can beat everything, it is because there must be a spaceship behind the humanoid armor to support it. This feels a bit useless, and there is energy conversion and so on. If there is this time, it would be easier to use the spaceship to launch an attack directly." The person in charge said, "There is no need to be upset about this. We can change the shape to a more handsome 12 constellation gold saint. This humanoid armor is not made to surpass the spacecraft, but to lead the world from the side." William and Naren's eyes suddenly lit up. This idea is good, full of the style of the sun never sets. And what the person in charge said is right. Although the practical effect is not as perfect as the performance of the spacecraft, once the gold saint is successfully developed, it can also replace many things that the spacecraft cannot do. What's more, the gold saint is not used to fight the spacecraft, so why care so much? Naren smiled and said, "It seems that this plan is very feasible. In this case, let's just call it the Sensei Yard plan." William also nodded repeatedly. Suddenly, something in the hearts of these two people seemed to be awakened. That's right, they can't wait to show their strength. As long as the Sensei Yard plan is done well, the limelight will still surpass the garbage Wangxi Empire and Jianmeng Empire. When the time comes, we will hold a single soldier competition around the Atlantic Ocean. The gold saints of the Sun Tribal Alliance will surely dazzle everyone, and the world will no longer underestimate the Sun Never Sets Alliance. Ha ha, so happy. Finally, after various supplements, a Sensei Yard plan was finalized to create the gold saints belonging to the Sun Tribal Alliance. William finally said excitedly, "Remember, our gold saints must be handsome." In the following days, the Sensei Yard plan was being implemented quickly in the Sun Tribal Alliance, and the Wangxi Empire and the Jianmeng Empire were also busy building shipyards. In the shipyard under construction in the Wangxi Empire, various leaders inspected it every day and occasionally made some suggestions. And on this day, the shipyard was completed. The shipyard that was expected to be completed in 5 months only hit 3.5 months. This huge shipyard covering an area of 2,000 square kilometers only serves spacecraft, including construction, supplies, maintenance, etc. There are many more buildings on the originally bare concrete site, and some factories are starting to transport related military equipment. Everything is moving in a good direction. At the current speed, the shipyard will be able to mass-produce spacecraft in another half a month. After all, the Wang's Empire now has countless human resources, scientific and technological resources, material resources, etc. So once the shipyard is put into production, its efficiency will definitely be higher than the efficiency of manufacturing spacecraft at the spaceship base. As time goes by, the takeoff and landing of some spaceships have also been transferred to the shipyard, and the Millennium Falcon that went out on missions has also returned one after another. According to the instructions, they landed in the empty shipyard one after another. But Lin Chen and others frowned. Why is one missing? Within a month, 4 Millennium Falcons have returned. Although they did not bring back any good news, they also brought back the drawn star maps. However, suddenly another Millennium Falcon was missing, and it was the Millennium Falcon that Dr. Xiao went on a mission. Later, Lin Chen waited for another week before finally getting news from Dr. Xiao. Finally unable to sit still, Lin Chen hurried to the shipyard where the spacecraft was about to be manufactured. He looked at Dr. Xiao, who had been away for a long time, and asked, "Why did Dr. Xiao come back so late? Did you bring back any major discoveries?" Jingxi was so enthusiastic that she would stare at Lin Chen from time to time with her bright eyes behind him, obviously very angry. Dr. Xiao's face still showed no sign of embarrassment or poor mental state. She thought for a while and said, "There is no major discovery, but I found a planet where two civilized races coexist when I went out on a mission this time." This immediately aroused the curiosity of many people. A planet where two civilized races coexist? Interesting. Jingxi asked everyone to sit down and talk about what they had to say. After a while, after taking a seat, Dr. Xiao sipped the water in the cup and said, "This planet has humans and a humanoid race called the Wasan people, but these two races are currently in a global war." Everyone motioned for Dr. Xiao to continue. Dr. Xiao said, "The Wasan people are no longer considered a human race, because the Wasan people have very different characteristics from humans. They have moon-shaped heads, beards, and the hands of every Wasan person are blood red, as if their hands stained with sin." Everyone was shocked and said, "Beards? They look a bit like the Nihon people who were almost exterminated by Kepler." Dr. Xiao said, "I have recently read the information of the Empire, including the planet Kepler. It is indeed very similar to the Nihon people you mentioned, and even their worldview was very similar. The Wasan people are also invading human countries, but the Wasan people are more brutal than the Nihon people. They don't even let the elderly and children go." Lin Chen was thoughtful for a while. There was still a system task lying alone in the system panel, and the task was to start a racial war. Can I use this time to complete the task? As for the life and death of a non-human race, what does it have to do with me? Not to mention discovering a non-human race, even if I didn't find it, sooner or later I would find a non-human race and start a war between races. After Drive Xiao explained the situation, everyone finally had a general understanding of that planet she mentioned. The technology of the planet was probably similar to that of the Tianxing Kingdom and the Nihon people during the war on Kepler. The Wasan people launched an invasion. They were more brutal than the Nihon people, and they did not spare the elderly and children. That night, the news brought back by Dr. Xiao attracted great attention from the Wang's Empire. The human beings on a planet in the universe are suffering from a catastrophe. If there is no external help, it is almost certain that the extinction of the human beings on that planet is only a matter of time. After all, Dr. Xiao has said that many human countries have been destroyed on the planet. At present, the question facing the Wang's Empire is whether to help or not, whether to sit back and watch the human beings on a planet perish. If they help directly, it is actually very simple. With the current strength of the Wang's Empire, it is completely possible to easily cross the vast starry sky and strike a dimensionality reduction blow to the Wasan people, but it obviously feels like meddling in other people's business. If they didn't help, it would be even simpler. They could just sit back and watch, but they couldn't stand it, and obviously no one wanted to miss this opportunity to bully aliens. And this was the problem facing the Wang's Empire, which was not a problem at the moment. Chapter 364 Let's go and bully the aliens. In fact, everyone wants to help now. It would be so cool to bully the aliens. But at the moment, everyone needs a reason to convince themselves, a reason to explain to the soldiers of the Empire. Otherwise, the aliens have not provoked themselves, so should they announce that they will take them to show off and bully the aliens? This is obviously not feasible at all, at least it is not acceptable in terms of face. At this time, Lin Chen took a look at the task panel. Host: Lin Chen. Task 1. Start a racial war. Fan value: 5.6 million. Task 1 is still lying alone. Isn't it the most appropriate reason to complete the system task? Lin Chen said, fight. Someone asked, what's the reason? Lin Chen said, is it not okay if I want to fight? Everyone nodded in agreement, okay. Jing Minjiwan stood up and said with great pride, gather all the third corps in the shortest time possible. All of you follow me to show off. This once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go down in history must not be missed. Later, he seemed to remember something and immediately changed his words, saying with a serious face, oh, no, we are going to save the humans on another planet, to rescue our fellow tribesmen. Lin Chen whispered, now it's the third combined fleet. Jing Minjiwan looked embarrassed. Jingshi whispered, in fact, there can be 10,000 reasons, such as framing someone, going to the planet in the name of procurement, deliberately provoking trouble, such as letting our people pretend to be the Wasan people to attack ourselves. Everyone's eyes lit up. This idea was great. What's true or false? Even if a discerning person can see that it's false, what can it do? If the Empire says it's true, it's true. In short, the Wang's Empire is determined to bully the evil aliens. In the end, a plan to strike Wasan was born. A week later, the third joint fleet of the Wang's Empire only left some spaceships to serve as cargo ships to continue to transport ore back and forth, and most of the spaceships returned to the Blue Star from Pandora. The Empire's fleets were all stranded in the shipyard that had just been built. After 4 days of rest, the soldiers of the third joint fleet of the Wang's Empire returned, and the warships were ready to take off at any time. Jing Minjiwan was wearing a tight suit and showed an excited look. In the past, he was in poor health and could only watch others pretend to be cool and go to various alien planets to show off their power. Now that he is in good health and the opportunity is in front of him, of course he has to have enough fun. Who doesn't want to establish eternal merit? He boarded a command battleship and shouted, let's go. The fleet began to take off one after another, heading to the depths of the starry sky according to the coordinates of the star map drawn by Dr. Shao, and went to distant galaxies to bully aliens. In the battleship, Jing Minjiwan showed great enthusiasm. After all, this was the first time in his life that he had commanded a foreign war that he had always dreamed of. Along the way, he was either discussing how to bully the evil Wasan people or planning how to show his strength. The time unit in space is not days, but hours. In the next hundreds of hours, Jing Minjiwan and others have already formulated a perfect plan and a perfect reason to start a war. Plan. Send a few soldiers disguised as Wasan people, and then come to besiege the third combined fleet, and the Empire passively initiates the war. In short, the Wang's Empire is fully prepared and the war is passively initiated. After hundreds of hours, the Empire's third combined fleet passed through countless galaxies, and finally slowed down, no longer opening space jumps and warp engines. A blue planet appeared in the sight, and the planet was the planet mentioned by Dr. Shao. The third combined fleet approached the planet at a normal speed, and finally entered the gravitational orbit of the planet and headed towards the atmosphere. Now everything is ready, only the east wind is missing. Once the east wind arrives, the Empire will launch a thunder strike that will destroy the world. In the command battleship, Jing Minjiwan showed an evil smile on his face and ordered, enter the planet and act according to the original plan. The Empire's fleet entered the planet soon. At this time, the humans on this planet were suffering from a disaster. It was an invasion from the Wasan people. This race wanted to dominate the world, so they invaded the human countries in the world. Because of their advanced equipment, the Wasan people relied on the advantages of weapons to almost beat humans. In a very short period of time, the Wasan people had occupied many human countries. Because of the difference in race, every time they invaded a place, the Wasan people would launch a ruthless killing, just like their sinful hands, which were full of sin. The Wasan people were also invading a country called Xia, which was an ancient country. The confident Wasan people even once made a bold statement to destroy Xia within 3 months, conquer this beautiful country, make it the back garden of the Wasan people, and make the men of Xia country slaves and the women prostitutes. In fact, the Wasan people, with the advantage of their equipment, have conquered most of the territory of Xia in a very short time. Their tanks and planes are not something Xia can contend with. At present, the Wasan people have gathered their troops and launched the most fierce attack on Mingzhu city in Xia. This is one of the few large cities left in the human camp. If Mingzhu city falls, the morale of the human side will inevitably plummet, and the Wasan people will undoubtedly accelerate the destruction of Xia. At this moment, the battle in Mingzhu city is still going on. The two races fought each other for 3 days and 3 nights, and the battle was extremely tragic. It is only a matter of time before Mingzhu City falls, but humans are still relying on their last confidence to hold on to Mingzhu City. Because every human knows that the Wasan people are a group of beasts. They have no kindness at all. Any city they enter will be ruthlessly destroyed. The cruelty of the Wasan people will turn any area into scorched earth and hell. They enjoy killing humans, and compete to see who kills more humans. Even the elderly, weak, women and children are not spared, and women will be defiled by those beasts in turn. Boom boom da da da. At this time, the battle that gathered the sights of both humans and the Wasan people was beyond imagination. With strong will, humans blocked the attack of the Wasan people for 3 days and 3 nights. It was incredible, as if these humans were not afraid of death, and even dared to face death with no fear, and tied bombs all over their bodies to blow up the indestructible tanks. The news reached the Wasan people's base camp, which aroused the extreme dissatisfaction of many Wasan people. The great Wasan warriors actually failed to take down the Pearl City of China in 3 days and 3 nights. This is a shame. Bagayalu, all the Xia people are dead. We must kill all the Xia people. Notify our warriors that as long as we capture the Pearl City, the army can have fun in the Pearl City for 3 days. Soon, the Wasan people's base camp issued a crazy order. Order the Wasan army to take down the Pearl City with the most violent attack and have fun in the city for 3 days. This was a crazy order that could drive the morale of countless Wasan soldiers high, because they all wanted to go crazy in the city, wantonly slaughter humans, and wantonly defile human women. The news soon spread to the 100,000 Wasan troops who were attacking Mingzhu City. When the commander of Wasan saw that it was an order from the headquarters to watch the capture, he immediately stood up, holding a command knife in his hand, and walked out of the tent with full confidence. Chapter 365. The Wasan people attacking Xia. At present, Mingzhu City of Xia country is just a thing in the bag. As long as the capture is successful, all human women are objects that the Wasan people can enjoy at will. It seems that the headquarters can't wait to hear the good news that the great Wasan warriors have captured Mingzhu City. In this case, I can't save my strength anymore. I must send fighters and tanks to join the battle and capture Mingzhu City. Commander Wasan asked the messenger to contact the aircraft unit and the tank unit to cooperate in the attack. This time, the attack must capture Mingzhu City. After a while, everything was ready, and each unit could launch an attack at any time. Commander Wasan showed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. With a sound of clang, the command knife was unsheathed. The command knife in the hand of Commander Wasan pointed at Mingzhu City, which was resting in the distance, and shouted in high spirits, "Great Wasan warriors, Os, give it." The 100,000 Wasan troops cooperated with the tank troops rushing on the ground, and rushed towards the lonely Mingzhu City from all directions like a tide. Every Wasan person couldn't wait to enter the city and go crazy. The Xia country defenders in Mingzhu City immediately started fighting. However, compared with the equipment of the Wasan people, their equipment was obviously more than one level lower. Not only were their weapons not good, but the amount of ammunition was limited. And the Wasan people also had planes appearing, becoming the god of death in the air, constantly harvesting the lives of the soldiers. Even so, the soldiers of the Xia country still bravely picked up the 38 big bars in their hands and used their indomitable spirit to right the humiliation of the Xia people who were unwilling to be slaves of a conquered country and the humiliation of being enslaved by the Wasan people. However, the cruelty of the battlefield is not simply to drive away the enemy with a tenacious spirit, but also requires strong strength. But it is obvious that the weapons and equipment of the Xia country are inferior to those of the Wasan people in all aspects, not to mention large weapons such as tanks and airplanes, and even machine guns are not many. Boom boom, the sound of explosions rising and falling from each other is endless. Once the battle started, it was cruel. Both sides were red-eyed and wished to kill each other. As time went by, the disadvantage of the Mingzhu City defenders with crude weapons became more and more obvious, especially when the Wasan people put in tanks and planes. The defenders were decreasing in number. However, the Xia soldiers did not show any signs of retreat, and were determined to live and die with Mingzhu City, which had become a stinky and hard stone in the eyes of the Wasan people. The commander of the Wasan army looked at the entire battlefield with a telescope in his hand. Seeing that the Wasan warriors could not take the city for a long time, he was immediately embarrassed. The other Wasan troops were beating the Xia people all the way, but when it came to him, the Xia people didn't know what was good for them and didn't surrender, intending to resist to the end. Damn it! The commander of the Wasan cursed. Bagayalu, the damn Xia people actually blocked so many Wasan warriors, they will definitely pay a heavy price for this. Messenger, notify the artillery reinforcements. After a while, on the battlefield where the two sides were still fighting, a group of Wasan people in yellow uniforms appeared, and their appearance also brought 20 cannons. Commander Wasan showed a proud smile on his face and said, Yoshi, the 240mm howitzer is the master of the army duel and the winner of the battlefield. It is the symbol of invincibility. Nothing can withstand the baptism of the howitzer. The 240mm cannon is the largest cannon of the Wasan army. Apart from anything else, it is definitely a sharp weapon for siege warfare. After a few rounds of shells, even the walls of Mingzhu City can be blown down. The officers headed by Commander Wasan showed their determined smiles, and their faces were full of excitement. They couldn't wait to went to Mingzhu City. By then, none of the beautiful Xia girls would be able to escape, and let those women come to the bed with the warriors of the Great Wasan gloriously. Soon, a row of howitzers were loaded and waiting to be fired. Wasan's gunner said, "Fire!" The 20 heavy weapons that Commander Wasan was proud of began to play a role, and shells hit the walls of Mingzhu City one by one. Swoosh, bang, 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 a more deafening explosion sounded. Mingzhu City clearly felt a tremor. If it continued like this, then the city wall would most likely collapse, and the consequence would be that a steady stream of Wasan people would pour into Mingzhu City through this gap. Hundreds of thousands of Xia soldiers were desperate. Given the habits of the Wasan people, once they entered Mingzhu City, they would definitely set off a bloody storm, but they couldn't stop it. Brothers, never surrender. We humans must never surrender to the Wasan people. Even if it's a street fight, we must fight to the end with them. Don't be a slave of a conquered country. I'm more worried that Mingzhu City will fall into the hands of the Wasan people. Xia will have several large cities in the future. A pessimistic mood was spreading. Since the Wasan people deployed artillery, these Xia soldiers knew that Mingzhu City could not be defended, but they could not break through or escape, because they were Xia soldiers and humans. Swoosh, boom, another dense explosion sounded. This time, the city wall could no longer withstand the opponent's ruthless artillery fire and began to fall off, following the rounds of attacks. The city wall of Mingzhu City began to collapse, and a large amount of rubble fell off. After a while, a huge gap was formed that led directly to the interior of Mingzhu City. Seeing this scene, the Wasan army was greatly encouraged. A steady stream of Wasan warriors rushed towards the direction of this gap. As long as they entered the battlefield of Mingzhu City, the battle would not be far from over. The Wasan commander looked at this place with a telescope in his hand, and couldn't help showing an arc at the corner of his mouth, saying, "Yoshi, it's worthy of our Wasan people's cannon. In this world, our Wasan people are the strongest, and humans are only worthy of being slaves of our Wasan warriors. Women must be the objects of venting for the Wasan people, and men are only worthy of sleeping in pigsties." A group of Wasan officers beside him also flattered. "Commander, once we capture Mingzhu City, should we have the warriors search for female college students? Gather them and kill all the humans, so as to tell the Xia country's resistance army that this is the fate of refusing to surrender. We, the Great Wasan people, are the best race in the world. Only we, the Great Wasan people, deserve to have such a good world, and humans are just a group of ignorant and backward races." Everyone's words are full of confidence. This is the confidence of the Wasan people. After all, the Wasan people now almost occupy 1/3 of the world's territory, and have never lost a battle so far. Every time they give the human resistance army a bloody blow, they will recognize the cruelty of reality. Those Xia people can only kneel down and beg for mercy. Perhaps the Great Wasan Empire will consider whether to spare the lives of these humans. Commander Wasan said confidently, "Tell our warriors that as long as they enter Mingzhu City, they can rob money, food, and women. What Xia people, they are just a group of cowardly sick men, and they can be slaughtered at will." Once the order was conveyed, countless Wasan people were excited and flushed, and they wanted to win the battle immediately and rush into Mingzhu City to do whatever they wanted. Even, they seemed to have seen the scene of a human woman with a beautiful body under her body, and then being stripped of her clothes. Suddenly, the Wasan people were full of fighting spirit, just like chicken blood. The Xia warriors were completely desperate, watching the endless stream of Wasan people about to pour into Mingzhu City through the gap that was blown open. These warriors, whose faces were full of fatigue and soot, showed a look of relief, and almost tacitly checked the few weapons and ammunition. They had made up their minds to die and wanted to die with the Wasan people. But, at this time, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared. In order to bully the aliens, the third fleet of the Wangxi Empire, which came from the depths of the vast starry sky, has now entered the atmosphere of the planet. Chapter 366. The Sky Fortress falls from the sky. The huge hulls of the three battleships stretched for thousands of meters, and could be called a real air fortress. Together with other warships and spacecraft such as assault ships, they formed a fleet that was barely acceptable. This fleet had nearly 100 large and small spacecrafts, and most of the officers and soldiers of the Third Combined Fleet officially entered the entire planet, and were still slowly descending. As the descent progressed, it also brought darkness below after covering the sky and the sun, and the Earth was no longer illuminated by the sun. After a long time, the Empire's Third Combined Fleet had slowly descended to an altitude of about 300 meters above the ground. At the same time, the two sides who were fighting on the ground looked up at the sky in a bit of surprise. How could the clear sky, which was just bright, suddenly become cloudy? However, no matter whether it was the Xia people or the Wasan people, they were all shocked by the scene in front of them after they looked up. What is that? An air fortress that covers the sky and the sun. Countless people tried their best to look into the distance. With blurred vision, they could barely see the end. Then, it was even more terrifying, but it was also the end, because there were rather huge aerial fortresses like this and some very small flying ships. Looking closely, they found that it was not an aerial fortress, but something like an airplane, except that what was flying in the sky at this time was a ship, a spaceship. The appearance of such a huge thing made not only the personnel on both sides of the battle, but even the residents of Mingzhu City looked up at the sky, pointing and talking from time to time, with both anxiety and curiosity in their words. The appearance of the Third Combined Fleet of the Empire temporarily suspended the battle between the two sides of Mingzhu City below. Whether it was the soldiers of Xia country or the warriors of Wasan people, they did not dare to make any rash moves before they figured out what the thing above their heads was. Commander, the defenders of Mingzhu City are now lax, and we should launch an attack immediately. No matter what appears in the sky, we, the people of the Great Wasan, will never be afraid. Could it be that our Wasan headquarters has sent out secret weapons to help us? The officers of Wasan discussed countermeasures and finally decided to withdraw temporarily. Although they were blindly confident, they were not stupid. The sudden appearance of such a huge airship was too strange, and it did not reveal whether it was an enemy or a friend. So Commander Wasan decided to withdraw temporarily, retreat 100 miles and wait for news from the headquarters. Afterwards, after receiving the order to retreat, the warriors of Wasan immediately retreated in a continuous stream. Although every Wasan person was unwilling, Mingzhu City was right in front of them, but what could they do? Before they could figure out the big guy above their heads that was covering the sky and the sun, temporarily withdrawing was the best choice to avoid the sudden arrival of unknown terror. Facing the fear of indescribable things, the heart was indescribable. The defenders of Mingzhu City should have cheered happily after seeing the brutal Wasan people retreat, but these human warriors from Xia Kingdom were not happy at all. Because anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Wasan people were scared away by the airships above their heads. The defenders of Mingzhu City looked up at the sky helplessly, and they had no idea what to do next. What should we do? Even the Wasan people were scared away. Should we also escape? How did such a big guy fly into the sky? What are those airships? For airships, it was beyond the cognition of the defenders of Mingzhu City. Even 99.9% of these defenders did not even understand the meaning of space, let alone the Third Joint Fleet coming from the depths of the starry sky. At this moment, everyone's words were inevitably worried and uneasy, and they were all confused about what would happen next. However, at this time, the Third Joint Fleet from the Empire analyzed what had just happened below. There was a battle between two races. Needless to say, it was immediately understood that the Wasan people mentioned by Dr. Shao were invading the human country. The situation between the two sides was clearly seen through the ground scanning system of the battleship. After comparison, the retreating group was finally locked as the Wasan people. From a distance, the Wasan people were so dense that they looked like small ants retreating like a tide. Lin Chen pointed to the screen in front of him and said, "Those should be the Wasan people. Look, they have the characteristics of a round head, a toilet beard, and red hands." Jiang Minjiwan nodded, and the impulse in his heart became more and more unbearable. He used to be bullied by aliens, and now he can finally bully aliens and feel the pleasure of bullying alien creatures. He waved his hand, notified the fleet, and ordered, "Prepare to implement the first plan, let our people disguise as the Wasan people to attack the Empire's fleet." Lin Chen directly instigated. Just fight. Why should an advanced civilization care about the life and death of a low-level civilization? Jiang Mingjuan frowned and said, "You don't understand, we need an excuse to bully the Wasan people." Lin Chen said, "If we fight, won't those Wasan people fight back out of instinct?" Jiang Mingjuan's eyes lit up. "Yes." "Are you still afraid that those Wasan people will not fight back after being attacked?" "As long as they fight back, it's fine." The next step is to show off a wave of strength, showing off strength to all the blue stars. After thinking deeply, Jiang Mingjuan notified the ships again and ordered, "Launch an attack, target the Wasan people." Since the other party is not human but has done things that infringe on human interests, our Wang's Empire, as an advanced human civilization, must set an example when humans on other planets suffer disasters, and set an example for the entire universe. Nearly 100 spaceships immediately prepared for combat. One after another, black gun barrels extended from the spacecraft, firing tractor beams that firmly locked onto the retreating Wasan army. Even the gun barrels of the battleships were 10-meter caliber turbo laser cannons. The 250mm caliber howitzers that the Wasan people were proud of were completely different from the 10-meter caliber turbo laser cannons. Inside the battleship, Red Queen reported based on the information fed back by each ship. All energy weapons have completed energy storage. Lin Chen said, "All energy weapons are temporarily suspended, and a Millennium Falcon will launch a missile. This is done to avoid annihilating the Wasan army at once, otherwise it would be meaningless. Only by revealing your identity first, so that the Wasan people will subconsciously counterattack, can it work." After the order was given, a Millennium Falcon spacecraft immediately launched a material missile towards the retreating Wasan army. With a whoosh, the missile, with a thick tail flame, penetrated into the army of the Wasan people at a very fast speed. After hitting the ground, the energy contained in the missile began to ferment, producing huge explosive damage and shock waves. Boom boom, a huge explosion occurred in the retreating Wasan army, directly blowing dozens of Wasan people into pieces of meat falling to the ground. All this happened too suddenly. The defenders of Mingzhu City were stunned. They never thought that in addition to the giant spaceship, there were also small metal spaceships in the sky, and they directly fired a shell at the Wasan people. The retreating Wasan army had been paying attention to the sky and witnessed where the missile came from. Without saying anything, they counterattacked almost subconsciously under the urging of their combat skills. Chapter 367. Souls baptized by war will merge with the fate of the Empire. It seemed as if the Wasan people were asserting the sovereignty issue. The rifles in their hands fired bullets at the giant spaceship at the intersection of their sights. After a burst of dense gunfire, the giant spaceship in the sky was not affected at all. A Wasan officer was still holding a command knife and pointing at the spaceship, shouting, "Big Wasan warriors, shoot, shoot!" After another round of shooting, there was still no substantial impact on the spaceship in the sky. Seeing this scene, the Wasan commander's body suddenly stiffened, thinking that the officer's actions were going to be in trouble. He immediately notified all Wasan officers to stop firing quickly, because they might get into big trouble. Provoking a war with this excuse is a common means before the war, and it is a premeditated passive counterattack. The opponent is an unknown airship, which is definitely a weapon of a top force. At least the current Wasan Empire cannot send a giant spaceship with a diameter of several thousand meters into the sky. Since they're stronger than the Wasan Empire, they obviously come with bad intentions. Even from the shells fired before, the other party will not give up. It can even be said that the shells just now were a trap set by the other party. If the Wasan warriors had not fought back just now, it would be fine. The other party might not do anything for the time being, but now that they have fought back, then what will happen next? Commander Wasan's pupils stretched and contracted, and he looked up at the sky with a telescope again. His heart immediately chilled. Sure enough, the other party came with bad intentions. He just saw a lot of things that looked like giant cannons, and the muzzles were still swallowing and flashing bright light. Tell him directly that it was an unprecedented powerful attack. Commander Wasan hurriedly urged. Driver, drive quickly, fast, the fastest speed, step on the accelerator to the bottom, don't worry about the group of Seeker deer behind. The driver stepped on the accelerator to the bottom as the commander meant, and the car quickly jumped out, leaving the Wasan army far behind. That's right, Commander Wasan guessed what was going to happen next, so he directly abandoned the slow-moving large army and ran away. He didn't want the car to run too fast, but as long as it could run faster than those Wasan warriors, it would be fine. Now that they had already noticed the intentions of Lin Chen and others, but there was no way to stop them, they could only try their best to save their lives. At this time, Lin Chen and others in the battleship smiled. Since the Wasan people fought back, they could continue with the next plan. Lin Chen asked, "Did Red Queen record it?" Red Queen said, "It has been recorded." A video appeared on the control screen, and the content was the scene of the Wasan people's attack on the Empire's Third Combined Fleet. This is the evidence, the passive evidence of strength. In the future, I will tell the world of Azure Star that it is not that the Wang's Empire has nothing to do and travel through the vast starry sky just to bully aliens. It is that the Wasan people here are ignorant and actually attempted to attack the Empire's Third Combined Fleet, so the Wang's Empire can only passively teach the Wasan people what the dangers of society are. Everything is going according to plan now. Lin Chen said, "Red Queen, give the order to attack." Red Queen said, "Received." Soon, nearly 100 warships of different sizes extended their gun barrels to launch an attack. Because they had already stored energy before, they did not need to store energy again, and they directly emitted energy rays. Chirp, 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 hundreds of dazzling beams appeared and went towards the Wasan people. The sharp sound of breaking through the air was comparable to thunder, creating an incomparable effect. Whether in terms of vision or power, it was incomprehensible to the natives of this planet. The speed of various energy rays was extremely fast, and in a very short time, they covered the Wasan army that was just fighting back. Boom, boom, the explosion sounded. Countless Wasan people did not even scream, and the huge energy penetrated their bodies and turned them into powder directly. Chirp, 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 rays were emitted one after another. The dazzling light made it difficult to open your eyes. After a while, the strong light between heaven and earth dissipated. Only a few of the 100,000 strong Wasan army survived, but their legs trembled suddenly, and they were frightened to the point of incontinence. They looked at the huge monster in the sky in horror. What kind of attack was that just now? It could turn nearly 100,000 Wasan troops into ashes in an instant. Run! The Wasan people fled in a very embarrassing way, rolling and crawling during the period, just to escape to a place they thought was safe as quickly as possible. At this time, the Xia soldiers in Mingzhu City were also shocked by the shocking scene just now. 100,000 Wasan troops were turned into ashes in an instant. Too horrible. What kind of attack was that? How come I have never seen it before? Who was the other party? Is there a force in the world more powerful than the Wasan people? Countless people's scalps numbed. The Wasan people were already very powerful, but the ship still flying in the sky was even more powerful. Every soldier of Xia felt extremely horrified, and their legs were shaking uncontrollably. Every time they looked up at those huge monsters, they would feel a sense of powerlessness all over their bodies. They swallowed their saliva, and would rather face 10 times more Wasan people than these huge monsters, because everything was full of unknowns and terrors, and they didn't understand anything at all. At this time, the Third Joint Fleet of the Wang's Empire no longer launched an attack, nor did they kill them all, or deliberately let some Wasan people go. After a while, the battleship slowly descended to a certain height again, and the huge rear hatch was seen opening, and the elevator shaft was also descending. Fully armed soldiers, various mechanical troops and mobile troops emerged from it. This is an invincible army that has been tempered by the most rigorous training in life and death, blood and fire. At ease, stand at attention, clannades and uniform sound rang out. The soldiers of the Wang's Empire stood up straight. After they appeared, they gathered together, and an invisible momentum that could shake the world condensed and emanated. The appearance of this scene almost frightened the Xia army in Mingzhu City, which was several kilometers away, and threw away their telescopes. Horror! Just one look, and I felt my scalp tingling. Those humans were fully armed in standard uniforms, in a full mental state, and the taste of iron-blooded soldiers could be seen from the faces of those warriors. Although it is not clear where those human warriors came from, it is certain that the opponent's strength is invincible. What's more, they all came out of those flying ships, so this is a human army shrouded in unknown and mysterious colors. Finally, Jiang Minjiwan and his son-in-law Lin Chen appeared on a Millennium Falcon that had just landed. After emergency debugging, the external audio function and video recording function of the battleship were turned on to facilitate the next show. Jiang Minjiwan put the wireless microphone on his ear, stepped forward and said righteously, "The Wasan people on this planet don't know what's good for them. They attacked the Third Combined Fleet of the Wang's Empire. We were forced to start a war. Today's war is to prove to all races in the universe that the dignity of our Wang's Empire cannot be trampled on. Those souls baptized by the fire of war will be integrated with the fate of the Empire. In the future, humans will believe in us, support us, and work together to build an everlasting Wangxian Empire. Jiangmen Jiwan's voice was very contagious. Through the external speakers of the battleship, everyone present could hear clearly what he was saying. After the speech, people couldn't help but feel moved from the bottom of their hearts, and perfectly mobilize the emotions of every soldier present. But then, the excitement on their faces slowly disappeared in an instant, and everyone present showed a deep solemnity. More than 70,000 officers and soldiers of the 3rd Combined Fleet bent their right arms together, with their right palms to the position around their temples, and shouted, "Long live the Wangxian Empire!" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 368. Hit. The shouts of the soldiers were heard by the external speakers of the battleships, and the sound waves continued for a long time, as if they were about to tear the sky apart. A majestic momentum suddenly emerged, rushing straight into the sky, and even the surrounding area of more than 10 kilometers was the sound of the Wangxian Empire. The soldiers of Xia country were moved, and then they all looked surprised. Question mark, question mark, question mark. As for the Wangxian language, they could barely understand it, but the more so, the more obvious the doubts in their hearts became. Why do those people look similar to us, and why do they speak very similar languages? Of course, what puzzled these soldiers the most was where in the world the Wangxian Empire was, and why they had never heard of it before. And the form and practice of this Wangxian Empire was too arrogant. It was obviously them who fired a shell first, deliberately inducing the Wasan people to counterattack, but after showing their strong strength, they turned themselves into victims. Who on earth is the other party, and why is he so arrogant? The defenders of Mingzhu City were puzzled. At this time, the show had been recorded, and then a mecha took off with a camera. With a whoosh, it appeared above Mingzhu City and filmed the defenders below, recording most of the shocked expressions on their faces. At this time, if the humans on this planet were also ungrateful, then the Wangxian Empire would not mind taking care of Xia country as well. Just when everyone in the Wangxian Empire was expecting the Xia people to take action, the defenders of Mingzhu City had been so frightened that they forgot to be on guard, or there was no reason to fight anymore. Facing such a powerful human, what else could they use to fight? It was still unknown whether these small rifles in their hands could deter the other party. So at present, they all looked at the sky in disbelief, and there was no other behavior. A flying metal giant? Is it an airplane? Everyone, don't shoot, otherwise the fate of the Wasan people will be our fate. A cry of surprise rang out. The Xia country soldiers in Mingzhu City held their breath in fear, and dared not make any radical moves. Some even threw their guns on the ground. It's not that they don't have the courage to fight the enemy. Even when facing the Wasan people who are stronger than Jiaguo, they dare to take up arms. But everything they saw today has seriously exceeded their cognition. It is precisely because of this that they have developed a mentality that any resistance is futile. Fortunately, they saw that the flying metal giant just flew over the heads of the crowd and then flew away, which made them feel relieved. In fact, the Wangxian Empire is not very interested in the humans on this planet, and has no more energy to interfere in their internal affairs, such as development. The purpose of coming is nothing more than bullying aliens. Although most of them come to show their strength, everyone knows what benefits can be brought by showing strength, that is, to divert the internal contradictions of the Wangxian Empire. A force will inevitably have internal contradictions. If it wants to develop for a long time, it must divert internal contradictions through certain major events. Otherwise, why do Pussy, Lu Ngumo and others have to go further and further on the road of showing their strength? However, Jiangmen Jiwan still sent a marine squad into Mingzhu City. The purpose was very clear. He declared war on the Wasan people through the way of this world and fought a war between races. Otherwise, the Wangxian Empire really had no way to contact the Wasan people. After all, the Wasan people's current way of contact still relied on primitive and backward communication tools such as radios. As soon as they entered the city, the 5 Marines, led by the captain, were openly received by the highest commander of the Mingzhu City garrison, and their attitude was extremely humble. There was no way. The other party showed unparalleled strength. Even if the other party wanted to capture Mingzhu City, it might not take 10 minutes. The commander of Mingzhu City gritted his teeth and greeted the 5 armor people in front of him with a smile, saying, "Hello. Yeah. The 5 Marines showed considerable arrogance. In the case of unequal strength, they did not deal with the Xia Kingdom because they saw that the other party was human. After some polite exchanges, the highest official of Mingzhu City, Tan Wenchen, who was an old man in his 60s, asked with a smile, "I wonder what you are here for?" The captain of the Marine Corps said, "We're here to inform you of something. Tell the Wasan people in your way that the Wangzhi Empire has declared war on the Wasan people." The highest official of Mingzhu City, Tan Wenchen, was confused. Question mark, question mark, question mark, don't want to? Yes, yes. Later, the Marine Corps team handed the other party a walkie-talkie as a contact and left Mingzhu City directly. On the other hand, the highest official of Mingzhu City, Tan Wenchen, stood there and reacted for a long time before he came to his senses. After a long time, an excited look appeared on his face. Just do as the other party asked. With the mysterious Wangzhi Empire taking action, the good days of the Wasan people are over. For that Xia people, they are human beings, and the Wasan people are no longer among the human race, so they would rather be ruled by humans in the future than by a non-human race. Now that a powerful force has intervened, we must do as the other party requires. Not only must we do as the other party says, but we must also make the matter known to the whole world. And here, in the 3rd Joint Fleet of the Wangzhi Empire. After sorting out the recorded video, the video was sent back to the Empire without hesitation, and then the Empire replayed it to the Blue Star. On the same day, the people on the Blue Star who watched the replay were blown up. It was really that Jiang Minjiwan's speech was too passionate, and it touched the hearts of countless people. Wow, there are still aliens who are not afraid of death and dare to attack the Empire's fleet. Destroy the Wasan people. The ignorant aliens must pay the price for their blind self-confidence. Countless Wangzhi straightened their chests, and felt that after watching the video, the blood in their whole body was moving faster. Thinking of bullying the evil aliens again, they were suddenly excited and couldn't extricate themselves. As for the authenticity of the video, is it because of a non-human race that they questioned their own people? Even if it is fake, what can it do? Anyway, if the Wangzhi Empire says it is true, it is true. But other people on the Blue Star have completely different views from Wangzhi. Many people have seen the authenticity of this video. Although there are a large number of Wasan people attacking the spaceship of the Wangzhi Empire in the video, this is obviously a video that cuts off the beginning and the end. Something else must have happened before. Pussy was immediately furious. The damn Wangzhi Empire really took great pains to show its strength. Even if a backward civilized race is stupid, it is impossible to attack the giant spaceship first. There must be a conspiracy of the Wangzhi Empire. Damn it. Why didn't I think of recording a video about how to beat the aliens? If I play it again in the Jianmeng Empire, it will definitely show a wave of strength. On this side, the Sun Never Sets Alliance suffered the most serious blow. The Wangzhi Empire went to other planets to show its strength again, while they could only stay on the Blue Star and stare blankly. The two leaders of the Sun Never Sets Alliance, William and Naran, became more and more angry. In the end, they burst out with the desire to show their strength. Chapter 369. The Golden Leosant of the British Alliance. The two leaders of the Sun Never Sets Alliance came to the secret base of the Sun Never Sets Alliance one after another. This is a gathering place where the resources of the two old empires' technologies are gathered, and there are tens of thousands of experts and professors in various fields. They have only one job here, to restore the glory of the past. But now, let alone the glory of the past, even the remaining pride is gone. How can William and Nara not be anxious? After a while, the two passed a series of audits and officially entered the base. This base represents the highest technology of the Sun Tribal Alliance. Not only does it have the Angel Mecha and the Royal Spacecraft, but it has recently added a new project plan, a plan called the Senseiya. The person in charge of the base immediately came to report on his work. William said depressedly, "Okay, don't talk about those useless things. Now I want to hear about the Senseiya plan." The person in charge of the base was obviously well prepared, or full of confidence. After William asked, he immediately smiled and said, "We have made a set of individual armor, the Golden Leo armor, and the Senseiya candidate has also been found." William's eyes lit up and asked, "Do you mean that we now have a real Senseiya?" "Yes, the Golden Leo Senseiya has now mastered the performance of the armor." William and Naran immediately became interested and asked impatiently, "Then call the person over and let us see the actual effect." After a while, they came to an open-air training ground. This is not only the training ground for the Angel pilots, but also that training ground for the Senseiya in the future. At this time, in addition to several angel pilots training to drive Mechas, William and Naren saw a handsome blonde guy in the center of the training ground. With fluffy hair and handsome face, this is indeed a capital for future show. Otherwise, we can't have a bunch of ugly people appearing in the live broadcast. And this handsome guy was holding a metal box in his hand. William and Naren almost immediately determined that this blonde guy might be the Golden Leo Saint. Although they didn't know the actual effect of the individual battle armor, at least it was acceptable in terms of appearance. The person in charge of the base introduced. This blonde guy is called Aeolia, a saint of the Golden Leo, nicknamed the Golden Lion. William hammered the chest of the Golden Lion Aeolia and encouraged, "Come on, young man, the British Union will rely on you young people in the future." Aeolia was greatly encouraged and said excitedly, "Of course, this is what I should do." "Very good, this is a good motivation." Just now, the Wang's Empire showed its strength again. They ran to a planet to bully aliens, so we can't fall behind anymore. Please rest assured, I will become a Saint Seiya in the future to win glory for the British Union, defeat all opponents, and regain the glory of the past. William said, "Okay, start your performance." After saying this, everyone stepped back a few steps and kept a certain distance from Aeolia. However, this wait lasted for half an hour, because their spaceship had not taken off yet. After all, in order to transform into a Saint Seiya, the spaceship needed to shoot down a stream of fairy vine energy from space. William and Naren were impatient waiting. The two frowned and said very dissatisfiedly, "Why is it not ready yet? It's been half an hour. If an emergency occurs, everything that should happen in this half an hour has happened." The head of the base hurriedly explained, "This is not prepared in advance. It will be ready soon. There are 5 more minutes." William and Naren. Suddenly, there was an ominous premonition in my heart, a very familiar premonition, which was summed up from the experience of the rollover. At present, there is such a big mess before showing strength. Then when the strength is shown, won't it be a rollover? After waiting for a while, when they were about to wait no longer, the head of the base finally told them a good news that the spacecraft had entered space and the Golden Leo Saint Seiya could perform. William and Naren no longer had much expectations, but even so, they still stood there and waited and watched. At this time, after receiving the notice from the head, the Leo Saint Seiya area immediately showed a smile at the corner of his mouth, because he had become the protagonist of this world and this universe. No one can be more handsome than himself after becoming a Golden Leo Saint Seiya, never. Immediately afterwards, Aeolia posed, showing off his handsomeness. William and Naren nodded. Aeolia's hands immediately inserted into the briefcase, and suddenly something strange happened. The metal briefcase emitted a dazzling golden light, and then a covering armor extended from the metal box, wrapping Aeolia. About 5 seconds later, Aeolia's body was automatically covered with a set of armor, the Golden Leo armor, but this was not the end of his handsome appearance. At the same time, the spaceship that had just flown into space received the signal and immediately launched a stream of fairy vine energy at Aeolia. Then, a golden light-emitting divinity fell from the sky and wrapped Aeolia again. William and Naren could not see what was happening at all, and it felt too dazzling. After their vision gradually recovered, the two people standing there were suddenly startled, revealing an extremely shocked expression. At the intersection of their eyes, Aeolia was wearing a golden armor, which added a bit of divine brilliance to his handsome face. Aeolia put his right hand in front of him and clenched it, and a golden divine light burst out. His words were full of infinite confidence, and he said, "The Saint Seiya will always protect the love and peace of the earth." Cool and compelling. Full of the spirit of middle school. William and Naren were shocked again. Aeolia's way of appearance was extremely cruel, but such an inadvertent pretense was the most deadly. Naren stopped him in time and said, "Okay, Aeolia will have many opportunities to show off in the future. Now show me the power of the Leo Saint Seiya." Aeolia turned his head and said seriously, "No, am I Aeolia now?" Question mark, question mark, question mark. William and Naren turned their heads countless times to look at the person in charge of the base. The latter said that they should continue to watch. Aeolia said solemnly, "I am now the Golden Leo Saint Aeolia." William and the others were speechless, and even an awkward atmosphere spread. Then, he resisted the urge to reprimand them and said with a smile, "Start showing off the saint's excellence. It won't be long before the saints of the British Union will be on display to the world and will appear in the Atlantic Ocean individual competition. By then, you saints will have many powerful opponents." Aeolia curled his lips and said confidently, "They don't even have a 1 in 10,000 chance of winning." His words were full of disdain, which came from his opponent's disdain. This Leosant's armor was far more powerful than humans, giving him infinite confidence. Blind confidence. He felt that once he transformed into a golden Leo Saint, he would become the protagonist of all mankind in the entire universe, nothing else. Chapter 370. No matter if it's useful or not, as long as it's handsome, it's enough. At this moment, Aeolia was full of confidence, and his words were full of the style of middle school. In his heart, he not only looked forward to the day when he would gain the faith of the world, but also had a mentality of contempt for everything. He was now the golden Leo Saint Aeolia. What Lin Chen of the Wang's Empire, what invincible Mecha, what angel of Verdun, it was nothing to mention. Even these garbage could save the world, so how difficult would it be for him to save the world as a golden Leo Saint At this time, Aeolia had entered the realm of letting himself go, completely forgetting where he was and what he should do. William no longer had the initial dissatisfaction. A series of super handsome appearances made him feel that the Saint Sayard plan would definitely be a plan for the Sun Never Sets Alliance to regain its former glory. At the moment, although Aeolia was distracted from time to time, he had no intention of scolding, but instead urged with a smile. Okay, Golden Leo Holy City Aeolia, show your strength quickly. Aeolia put away his imaginary imagination and began to show his strength. Trail of light. He roared. His body flashed 3 times. The powerful energy of the immortal vine was consumed, and in exchange for a powerful and unmatched force, Aeolia's body would instantly move to a place 5 meters away every time. Lion's Fang. He roared again. Aeolia was extremely powerful. He swung his fist forward at an extremely fast speed, and there was a golden thunder flashing in a certain area in front of him. This is the final blow. Aeolia swung his right fist forward with force. This was the most powerful move. A virtual image appeared behind him and converged into a star map. In the end, these star maps formed a pattern of Leo, and a vivid and mighty lion appeared. Then, after Aeolia's right fist was swung, a golden energy beam appeared, and instantly blasted a big hole in the wall of the base. After the display, Aeolia took back the Saint Sayar armor, and his body did not show any negative effects, and he did not even show any signs of collapse. This was a performance that was extremely powerful. William and Naren were very satisfied with the display of the armor this time, and they all agreed that they would be able to reproduce their former glory this time. William urged, "We must make the armor for our Japanese tribal alliance as quickly as possible. The top priority of whether the 2 old empires can reproduce their former glory is that the head of the base will naturally not be careless," and he patted his chest to guarantee that he would make the most powerful armor in the shortest time. Naren frowned and asked, "The armor is very strong, but there is one thing I don't understand. Please tell me. Why did a virtual lion appear behind Aeolia just now? That's a special effect. In order to show our strength, we wrapped our brains to come up with a plan. The effect is shocking." William and Naren nodded and said, "Well, not bad. It doesn't matter whether it is useful or not, as long as it is handsome, it's enough. Once the special effect is activated, can't it directly scare the opponent to death? So this special effect function is simply wonderful." At present, since they have seen the majesty of the saints, William and Naren are no longer depressed. After all, the Sun Never Sets Alliance has now produced the most sophisticated armor, and it seems that it is only a matter of time before they can regain their former glory. After a while, everyone's faces were filled with confident smiles, as if they had seen the Saint's gorgeous appearance detonating the world, and then they beat the Wang's Empire and the Jianmeng Empire in a crushing manner. At the time, the whole world and the whole universe were under the control of the Sun Never Sets Alliance. So happy. At this time, the Jianmeng Empire that the Sun Never Sets Alliance wanted to beat had urgently issued an order, ordering General Bit to go to the vast starry sky as quickly as possible to find an alien planet without affecting the mining of Pandora's ore. Even the garbage like the Wang's Empire is bullying aliens, so the Jianmeng Empire, as the global overlord of the Azure Star, should bully aliens even more. Azure Star was in turmoil because the Wang's Empire successfully demonstrated its strength. As the instigator, the Wang's Empire's 3rd combined fleet was preparing to bully the aliens on a planet far away in the starry sky. Lin Chen and others did not choose to enter Mingzhu City. Even if they wanted to enter, they could easily make it surrender, but they did not do so. Except for the combatants, they all stayed in the battleship. At this moment, they all had a newspaper in their hands. After understanding the language of this planet, they could easily read the content on the newspaper, which was printed by Mingzhu City overnight. The content above was all published by Lin Chen, the highest official of Mingzhu City, according to the requirements of the empire. The Wasan people are brutal and inhumane, and the Wangzi Empire declares war on them. The location is the Wangzi Empire's third combined fleet outside Mingzhu City in Xia State. The declaration of war without any reason occupied the front page of the newspaper, with a row of large black characters, which made it difficult for people not to pay attention. Jing Minjiwan curled his lips and said, "The Wasan people are also worthy at the word empire." It felt like two richest men were arranged to eat at the same table, but the identities of the richest men were different, because one was the richest man in the world, and the other was the richest man in the village. Just because the Wasan people stole the word empire, it was not excessive to hit this group of ignorant aliens. Lin Chen nodded and said, "Not bad. Now we are waiting for the Wasan people to declare war, and then the empire's fleet will launch a thundering attack." After a long time, he put down the newspaper, stood up and looked into the distance. There was Mingzhu City, and I thought the news would begin to spread. Lin Chen guessed correctly. Once the newspaper of Mingzhu City came out, it quickly spread throughout the streets and alleys of Mingzhu City. On the street, many children selling newspapers, holding a stack of newspapers in their hands, shouted loudly, selling newspapers, Wangzi Empire declared war on the Wasan Empire." Such a big news soon attracted countless people to buy. After a while, the newspapers were sold out, and the newspaper company had to increase printing again. The local Xia people also read the newspapers. After reading them, some were happy and some were worried. The Wangzi Empire declared war on the Wasan Empire. Are those flying ships outside the city? Oh my god, this world is so crazy. This time, those Wasan people will have a hard time. I just don't know what attitude those humans will take towards us Xia people. A large number of newspapers were printed, and they appeared like countless hurricanes, sweeping in the four directions of east, west, south and north with Mingzhu City as the center. In just one day, the newspapers from Mingzhu City swept across the entire territory of Xia and every corner of the world. Countless humans and Wasan people were attracted by the content of the newspapers. Wangzi Empire. Even after looking at the global map, they couldn't find out where the Wangzi Empire was. The exiled leader of Xia also read the newspaper in front of many high-level officials of Xia at the meeting. After reading it, he became furious and cursed. "Damn it, let Tan Wenshan guard Mingzhu City, but what kind of moth is he doing? What Wangzi Empire declared war on Wasan Empire is simply nonsense." Chapter 371 Declaration of War. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. After the leader finished cursing, his chest rose and fell. The other senior officials lowered their heads and dared not breathe. The leader of Xia State roared again. "I was excited all night when I received the news, and I also looked at the world map all night, but I couldn't find where the Wangzi Empire was. Tan Wenshan clearly regarded me, the chairman, as a 3-year-old kid." However, at this time, the secretary hurried in and said with a smile, good news, the 100,000 Wasan troops attacking Mingzhu City have been completely wiped out, and only a very few people managed to escape by chance." Yes, the conference room gasped. Everyone's face was filled with deep astonishment. 100,000 Wasan troops were annihilated. How is this possible? The Wasan people are a 100,000 strong army. According to the comparison of strength, Mingzhu City must have at least 500,000 soldiers to tie with the Wasan army, and it is even more impossible to completely wipe out the 100,000 Wasan army. But now Mingzhu City has completely wiped out the 100,000 Wasan army. Many high-ranking officials of Xia State were confused. If Xia State really had this strength, would it have been bullied by the Wasan Empire for several years? Would there still be hundreds of millions of compatriots living in dire straits? It must be fake. Even the head of Xia State did not believe it. It was too absurd. Yesterday, the newspaper of Mingzhu City announced that the Wangzi Empire declared war on the Wasan Empire, and today there was a victory report that 100,000 Wasan troops were completely wiped out. The secretary had to explain again. It was not done by the Mingzhu City defenders. It was a group of humans driving spaceships from the sky who wiped out the Wasan people. They called themselves the Wangzi Empire. Everyone. Question mark. It felt incredible, and then a group of university professors were hurriedly invited. After speculation, they concluded that it was most likely that humans from other planets had visited. This explanation made a lot of sense. After contacting Mingzhu City again, the anger on the face of the head of Xia State suddenly disappeared. When he heard that it was humans from other planets, he smiled. No matter what the other party's identity is, at least they are also human beings, and they've also demonstrated their strong strength and are full of hostility towards the Wasan people. In this case, the head of the Xia kingdom excitedly shouted, "Declare war! We officially declare war on the Wasan Empire on behalf of the Wangxian Empire. In the current situation, as long as it is a force that fights the Wasan people, it is an ally of the Xia kingdom." Then that afternoon, the Xia kingdom declared war on the Wasan Empire. What is shocking is that the Xia kingdom declared war on the Wasan Empire on behalf of the Wangxian Empire. Humans all over the world who were oppressed by the Wasan Empire did not react to what happened. But when the news reached the Wasan Empire, it was different. The atmosphere in the Wasan Empire's headquarters was very serious. Many high-level people in the Wasan Empire had anger on their faces, because they felt that they were fooled. The high-level people of the Great Wasan Empire did not sleep all night, looking for the location of the Wangxian Empire on the world map, ready to let them feel the fear of being dominated by the Wasan people. But in the end, there was no Wangxian Empire at all. But now the shameless Xia kingdom actually declared war on the Wasan Empire in the name of the Wangxian Empire. Everyone in the Wasan base camp showed a cruel smile on their faces. Others don't know what the situation is in Jiaguo, but don't they in the Wasan Empire understand it? To put it nicely, they are fighting a hard war, and to put it bluntly, they will be destroyed at any time. A certain senior official said righteously at the conference table, "The damn Xia people are playing tricks on us." The emperor of the Wasan Empire said angrily, "Since Jiaguo has declared war on us on behalf of the Wangxian Empire, why should we be afraid of the Great Wasan Empire?" Everyone said in unison, "That's right, the Great Wasan Empire is the most powerful race in the universe." The emperor said, "No matter whether the Wangxian Empire is Jiaguo or not, we must declare war on the Wangxian Empire, let them lose their country, kill all their men, and turn all their women into slaves that the Great Wasan warriors can vent at any time." Many senior officials showed madness on their faces, and shouted loudly, "Long live His Majesty the Emperor!" Full of confidence. They never thought they would lose, because they are proud Wasan people, the most outstanding race, with a strong military force. And that Wangxian Empire is actually worthy of the name of the Jia Empire. He clearly looking for death. However, after the excitement, the high-ranking officials of the Wasan people were depressed. The Wasan Emperor asked, "Where is that Wangxian Empire?" Everyone shook their heads and even speculated whether this Wangxian Empire was a cover blown by Xia country. Fortunately, the spies of the Wasan Empire played a crucial role and quickly collected information about the Wangxian Empire. They only stole the third joint fleet of the Wangxian Empire near Mingzhou City in Xia country. Although there is very little information about the Wangxian Empire, it is enough. The powerful Wasan Empire will let the garbage Wangxian Empire know what the evil of society is and what a powerful empire will destroy everything. Suddenly, a senior official seemed to have thought of something and frowned and asked, "Don't we have an army of 100,000 Wasan warriors attacking Mingzhou City? It can just be used to destroy that fleet." The corners of everyone's mouths immediately showed a trace of a conspiracy that was about to succeed. They have 100,000 Wasan warriors attacking Mingzhou City, and it is also easy to destroy the fleet of the Wangxian Empire by the way. But soon, everyone's smiles disappeared. How did the 100,000 Wasan army lose contact? Could it be that they were destroyed? It seems very likely that they were destroyed by the other side, otherwise such a large army would not have lost all contact. A dark cloud filled the heads of everyone. A high-level official said in a deep voice, "Is the other side a very powerful force, so powerful that it destroyed the 100,000 Wasan army in a very short time? If they want to defeat the 100,000 Wasan army, even the Wasan Empire itself can't do it." Emperor Wasan said, "No matter who the other side is, no matter what happened, our Wasan Empire will defeat all enemies. What should we do? Kill everyone, and they must pay a heavy price for this. Very good. Go and declare war, and gather another 400,000 Wasan troops to flatten Mingzhou City and the fleet of the Wangxian Empire in one fell swoop, so that the humans who are still resisting in this world can see that this is the fate of disobeying the Wasan people." Later, after the Xia kingdom declared war, the Wasan Empire immediately declared war on the Wangxian Empire in a high-profile manner. A radio broadcast to the world. From now on, the Great Wasan Empire officially declares war on the Wangxian Empire, and will gather 400,000 of the most elite troops to eliminate all humans who are still stubborn. If you know the time, whether it is the Xia Kingdom or the Wangxian Empire, immediately offer your women and money to beg for surrender, and the Great Wasan Empire will establish a beautiful co-prosperity sphere. As soon as the news came out, it quickly spread all over the world, and all the Wasan people in countless regions were happy. This is the pride of the Wasan Empire. They are the most excellent race, and all humans should accept the domination of superior races. Even the high-ranking officials of the Wasan Empire are very happy. Nothing can be more pleasurable than plundering everything from humans, including their wealth and women. But they didn't realize at all that once this declaration of war that excited the Wasan Empire was issued, they would face what kind of despair and helplessness. Chapter 372 Don't shoot, retreat quietly. Just when the Wasan kingdom was still immersed in the conquest of a new human country, the declaration of war they issued also spread all over the world. Soon, the news also reached the third joint fleet of the Wangxian Empire. Jing Minjiwan and others smiled. Since the Wasan people came to seek death, the show is about to begin. Only Lin Chen looked at the system panel with a little dissatisfaction. Host: Lin Chen. Mission 1. Start a racial war, 35% completion. It was not easy to travel through the depths of the starry sky, but only this little progress was completed. It would be strange for him to be happy. Seeing that Lin Chen looked worried, Jing Minjiwan put away his smile and asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Chen came back to his senses and said, "No, I was distracted just now." Jing Minjiwan did not take it to heart, but called many captains to come and draw up a battle plan. Through the satellites on the spacecraft, they found that the Wasan people were gathering together, and the direction of movement seemed to be preparing to come to Mingzhu City. Jing Minjiwan said, "Wait for them to come, kill the 400,000 Wasan people, and then go directly to the Wasan people's empire to launch a covering attack." Everyone promised. Yes. A week later, the Wasan Empire's troops drawn from all over the country of Xia gathered together continuously, and the number of people finally reached a huge scale of 400,000. They marched along the way, and there was a situation of a decisive battle with the main force of Xia. However, it was not the case. The order was received to rush to the vicinity of Mingzhu City in the shortest time to find that fleet of the Wangxian Empire. Isn't it easy for 400,000 warriors to fight a mere fleet? Every Wasan person had a deep sense of satisfaction on his face, and he believed that such a large army was an invincible army in the world. It was impossible for such a large number of troops to avoid the eyes and ears of Xia, especially the Wasan army was constantly heading towards Mingzhu City. The Xia people who received the intelligence took urgent action in secret. Although the Wasan people came for the fleet of the Wangxi Empire, and although the fleet of the Wangxi Empire showed unparalleled strength, but the highest officer of Mingzhu City was still very anxious. Because this time the Wasan people dispatched the most elite troops of the Wasan Empire, and it was said that there were thousands of planes to assist in the battle. Once the Wasan people won, Mingzhu City would definitely become the opponent's primary target. On this day, he accidentally met Lin Chen in Mingzhu City, and recognized this young man with a very special identity in the fleet of the Wangxi Empire at a glance. With his strong invitation, he finally invited Lin Chen to enter a restaurant. In the private room of the restaurant, Tan Wenxian was in his 60s but put his identity very low. Not only that, even his adjutants were not qualified to sit down, and they were only qualified to stand behind with the marines brought by Lin Chen. The dinner table was full of colorful and fragrant dishes. Tan Wenxian toasted the young man in front of him and said, "We have received intelligence that 400,000 Wasan troops are coming here. What are your plans?" Lin Chen said, "Oh, no plans." More attention was paid to the dishes. No one could escape the law of true fragrance. Even Lin Chen was the same, especially for people like them who traveled through the vast starry sky for 10 days or half a month at a time, and rarely had the opportunity to taste such delicious food. Tan Wenxian said, "Aren't you in a hurry?" "Why should I be in a hurry? That's 400,000 troops. Are you sure there is any weapon in this world that can cause damage to the spacecraft in the sky?" Tan Wenxian. The old man with a grey beard was speechless. The other party seemed to be making sense. After a long time, Tan Wenxian hesitated and asked in a low voice, "Excuse me, are you really from other planets?" Lin Chen said, "Yes, from other planets. Are you here to invade?" "Just to fight the Wozan people. This poor place with nothing is nothing worth invading. I gave you face and didn't fight you because you're human beings in Xiaogyo." As soon as these words came out, the highest commander and a group of adjutants in Mingzhu City almost collapsed. It turned out that the other party came here not to invade, but to fight the Wozan people. As for why they came here to fight the Wozan people, this was not something they could speculate, and they didn't dare to ask too much. However, the other party didn't fight them because Shiogyu was human, which immediately made everyone present feel hot on their faces. Shame. It's not because the other party is too strong, but because the other party despises this poor place. Finally, the highest commander of Mingzhu City once again asked worriedly, "Is there really no problem? Are you underestimating us?" "No, we're just worried." After a while, Lin Chen had dinner and said before leaving, "You know nothing about real power. The people of Xia country. ? 5 days later. Mingzhu City of Xia country began to affect the nerves of people all over the world, and also affected the confidence of the Wasan people. Because the 400,000 Wasan army was getting closer and closer to Mingzhu City. At a glance, the Wasan army was endless and it was difficult to see the end. They came with advanced tanks and artillery, murderous. This Wasan army was still on the way, getting closer and closer to Mingzhu City. And their commander had been on the battlefield for a long time, and had fought no less than 100 battles of all sizes. He was full of confidence in the upcoming battle. Because the 400,000 most elite Wasan army gathered together, even if it was crushed, it could crush the Mingzhu City and the fleet to death. At the time, the commander of the Wasan army took a look at the map, and then said to his adjutant, "Notify our great Wasan warriors to speed up the march and try to arrive at dawn tomorrow to kill those human sick men by surprise. As long as they enter Mingzhu City, the women there can be ravaged at will." After the order, the army's marching speed was much faster. It was said that if they captured Mingzhu City, they could ravage those human flower girls again. Many Wasan people were obviously full of energy, and even some physiological characteristics had subtle changes. They couldn't wait to capture Mingzhu City and ravage those beautiful flower girls, especially the screams, which simply made the Wasan people's blood boil. For a long time, they took advantage of the night to hurry on their way, and finally arrived near Mingzhu City at dawn the next day. Logically, they should have done reconnaissance and attack preparations as soon as possible, but this most elite 400,000 strong army of the Wasan Empire stopped in front, and everyone looked at the sky in the distance with disbelief on their faces. In the distant sky, there were some huge objects floating, like huge ships floating in the air. Just one look at them made one feel shocked. The aggressive Wasan army suddenly began to retreat. Although they didn't know what those things were and why they were floating in the sky, they were obviously not easy to mess with. The Wasan commander's face was stiff, and he suddenly had a very bad premonition. Before, there were 100,000 Wasan warriors attacking Mingzhu City, but in the end, the 100,000 troops seemed to have suddenly evaporated from the world. They couldn't be found, and they lost contact. At the moment, it seemed that those giant spaceships floating in the air did it. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it made sense, and the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt, because it was stupid to declare war on an unknown existence in the Great Wasan Empire. He couldn't help cursing, "Bagger, could that be the fleet of the Wangxi Empire? The headquarters are a bunch of bastards. They actually want us to attack those behemoths." The adjutant asked, "Should we still attack? Those huge ships floating in the sky should be the fleet that the headquarters wants to attack." "Bagayalu." Commander Wasan cursed loudly, and then immediately closed his mouth in the next second, as if he was afraid of disturbing something. He immediately lowered his voice and whispered, "Don't shoot, retreat quietly." Chapter 373. A crushing defeat. If we don't sneak away at this time, once we disturb the other side, it is inevitable that those floating giant ships will launch an attack. Thinking of the 100,000 Wasan troops that disappeared before. So the safest way at present is to come quietly and leave quietly. Soon, the 400,000 Wasan troops began to retreat like a tide. But they had no idea of the terror from the advanced civilization. Lin Chen and others have actually been paying attention to the Wasan army, and even their every move has not escaped the powerful satellite monitoring. Since the other side has begun to retreat, the Empire's Third Joint Fleet can no longer pretend, and decided to give the other side a saturation fire attack. Just when most of the soldiers in the spacecraft had just woken up, Lin Chen had ordered the artificial Red Queen to gain control of all the spacecraft in the fleet. Lin Chen said, "Don't leave any alive." The figure of the Red Queen appeared on the control screen, and said, "Okay, the attack plan is being calculated. The attack plan has been calculated. The weapon combat mode is turned on and it will be executed soon." Then, under the control of the Red Queen, the Empire's Third Joint Fleet gradually took action. One by one, the gun barrels extended out, firing tractor beams, aiming at the quietly retreating Wasan army. This scene almost scared the Wasan army out of their wits. Why did those airships emit colorful rays of light? Were they discovered? What should I do? The Wasan commander's heart was shocked, and it was replaced by endless anger. How could the warriors of the great Wasan Empire be so cowardly? Even if they died, they should die in battle to be loyal to His Majesty the Emperor. Otherwise, if they escaped in such a disgrace, they would inevitably commit seppuku to apologize. In this case, the commander of Wasan shouted, "Warriors of the Wasan Empire, do not be afraid. The time to serve His Majesty the Emperor has come. Bravely pick up your weapons and attack the huge ship floating in the air. Os, give it." This order was issued to all parts of the 400,000 Wasan troops in a very short time. When they heard that it was time to serve His Majesty the Emperor, countless Wasan people were no longer afraid. Instead, they showed a crazy look on their faces and bravely took up their weapons to attack the distant spaceship. The bullets shot out from the treasury with a da-da-da sound and flew towards the fleet of the Wangxian Empire. Such a huge thing can be easily shot even without aiming. But soon, when it touched the hull, it was bounced back and forth by the specially treated metal material, making a dear sound. The attack was useless except for creating a huge momentum. Immediately afterwards, the howitzer also began to fire shells. Boom, boom, boom. Such a powerful shell has a strong power, but it still did not cause any substantial damage to those spaceships. Commander Wasan gritted his teeth, feeling both strong anxiety and strong madness in his heart. Because if the other side is not eliminated, it is very likely that he and the 400,000 warriors of the Great Wasan Empire will end up like the previous batch of Wasan people and lose all contact. At present, all attacks have failed, so we can only pray that the fighter planes will come. The powerful firepower of the fighter planes will definitely be able to shoot down those giant spaceships at close range. After a while, there was a roar in the sky. It was the fighter planes of the Great Wasan Empire coming to help. Suddenly, the morale of countless Wasan troops was greatly boosted. At the same time, such a fierce attack sound has caused the soldiers of Mingzhu City to appear on the wall one after another, trying to look out. At a glance, they were all horrified. They saw the secret Wasan people attacking the giant ships floating in the air, but it did not cause any substantial impact. So many Wasan people. The other side must be well prepared. Those flying ships are so powerful that they can defend against so many attacks. This is a real steel fortress that can withstand all attacks. The soldiers of Xia country swallowed their saliva. I don't know how to describe it at all. I just feel that those giant flying ships floating in the air are very strong, so powerful that they are almost invincible. The fighter planes of Wasan people arrived. More than 1,000 fighter planes roared over the heads of countless Wasan people. Although the pilots inside also felt a tingling scalp when they saw the huge monsters floating in the air for the first time, they reminded themselves more than once that the fighter planes they were proud of would most likely not have any deterrent effect on those huge monsters. But this is the moment to be loyal to His Majesty the Emperor, so we can't retreat. Long live the Great Wasan Empire. For His Majesty the Emperor. The pilots in the fighter planes gritted their teeth and roared while controlling the fighter planes to go towards those giant flying ships floating in the air. At this time, in the fleet of the Wangxian Empire, many people woke up and prepared to watch the rare scene that followed. The Red Queen on the control screen said, "All attacks are ready, combat mode is on." With that, the fleet of the Wangxian Empire launched an attack. Thick gun barrels followed the tractor beams, emitting powerful rays of light. Chirp chirp, a series of air-breaking sounds rang out. In a very short time, these energy beams emitted along the tractor beams showed the attack from advanced civilization. Under the powerful computing control of the Red Queen, the energy beams swept across the battlefield like countless laser cuts. As the muzzles moved, the energy beams also moved and harvested countless Wasan people. They were even turned into dust in the energy beams before they could even scream. The Wasan fighter planes in the sky came fiercely, making a buzzing roar, which seemed to be the prelude to the arrival of the God of Death. However, in less than 10 seconds, they were swept away by the energy beams. The Wasan troops on the ground suffered even more heavy losses. Wherever the energy beams from the Empire's fleet swept, the Wasan people there suffered heavy losses. Those who were lucky did not feel any pain and were directly turned into powder, while those who were unlucky lost half of their bodies. The whole scene became a silent slaughterhouse. In less than a minute, the number of the 400,000 Wasan troops was sharply reduced. The proud aircraft and cannons became extremely fragile under the energy beams that seemed to be able to destroy everything. The massacre of the Wasan people continued. The Wasan people were already scared and were defeated. The 400,000 Wasan troops collectively fled backwards, screaming in fear as they ran. Devil, that's a devil. Mom, I don't want to die yet, it's too scary here. The damn base camp must be a bunch of idiots. They asked us to attack such a terrifying force, just to send us to death. Save me, my lower body is gone, damn it, what will happen to my fiancé in the future? The high-spirited and vigorous spirit when they came here disappeared without a trace under the opponent's glowing weapons. It is true that the military strength of the Great Wasan Empire is the best in the world, but compared with the opponent, it is nothing. At this moment, the Wasan commander's legs were trembling weakly, and he was terrified by the unknown attack. Looking at the entire battlefield from the back, the scene of the 400,000 troops being defeated was very spectacular. Those Wasan warriors who were not afraid even in the face of death actually shouted in fear, which was not a good sign. Commander Wasan cursed. Bagaloo, those idiots in the headquarters dragged the Great Wasan Empire into the abyss and provoked such a powerful existence. He seemed to understand why the 100,000 troops that attacked Mingzhu City suddenly disappeared. It was estimated that it would not be long before his 400,000 troops would also disappear. He also knew that the Great Wasan Empire might be finished. The opponent's powerful spaceship was invincible. If these huge ships floating in the air entered the Great Wasan Empire, it would be unimaginable. The adjutant hurriedly said, "Commander, let's retreat quickly." Commander Wasan smiled bitterly and said, "It's too late." As soon as the work fell, a dazzling beam of light swept quickly, and countless Wasan people turned into wronged souls in the moving trajectory, and died with their eyes open, including Commander Wasan. After a long time, the third joint fleet of the Wangzi Empire stopped attacking. The 400,000 Wasan troops that were densely packed like ants on the ground were gone, and only less than a few thousand Wasan survivors were still fleeing in fear. And at this moment, the defenders of Mingzhu City were all lying on the wall, gazing into the distance. Without exception, everyone had an expression of fear on their face. Chapter 374. Cowards are not worthy of being warriors of the Great Wasan Empire. The 400,000 strong army of the Wasan people was gone. The total time was less than half an hour. Horror! What a scary cannon! What on earth were those attacks? They were so powerful. In just a few swishes, most of the Wasan people were dead. Horror! If those attacks were directed at us, I'm afraid we would have the same fate as the Wasan people. Everyone felt a chill on their backs, and a fear from the depths of their souls followed one after another, attacking everyone's heart. They had never thought that the battle would be so easy, and could even be described in a light way, because this was simply an extremely unfair contest, a massacre, a real massacre. At this time, in the base camp of the Wasan Empire, the news of the 400,000 strong army being wiped out had not yet been reported back. These senior officials were sitting in the conference room, still expecting some good news to come later, such as beating up the fleet of the Wangzi Empire, letting them know what the evil from society is, or having captured the city of Ming and dealt a heavy blow to mankind. However, an hour passed, and 2 hours passed. The agreement was to launch the attack at dawn today, but everyone had finished lunch, and there was no news yet, as if nothing had happened. The Wasan headquarters was depressed for a long time, but they did not wait for any news of the attack, but waited for a commander who escaped from Krisia. This commander was unaware of what was happening in Krisia. After escaping from the vicinity of Mingzhu City, he rushed back to the Great Wasan Empire without stopping, ready to feed back his intelligence to the headquarters in a timely manner and never do anything stubborn. This commander entered the conference room at the headquarters in a mess, so that many senior officials did not react to what had happened. After a long while, they recognized that it was Commander Kameda who attacked Mingzhu City but mysteriously disappeared. Seeing Kameda appear in the base camp, everyone hurriedly asked, "Kameda, why did you lose contact? Didn't I ask you to attack Mingzhu City of Xia Kingdom?" "Hey, we were about to take Mingzhu City, but we encountered an unprecedented enemy, so the 100,000 strong army was wiped out in an instant, and I was lucky to get it back." Bagaloo, even if it was 100,000 pigs, it would take 3 days and 3 nights to catch them all, not to mention 100,000 warriors of the Great Wasan Empire. Kameda, you should commit seppuku to apologize. No, I didn't lie. It was a group of enemies that fell from the sky and appeared near Mingzhu City. They were very powerful. I got them back just to make sure that the Great Wasan Empire would never act rashly. With that said, the conference room suddenly fell into a strange and quiet atmosphere. Many senior officials were full of complicated feelings. It seemed very likely that the fleet of the Wangzi Empire was the enemy that Kameda mentioned. And it didn't look like Kamda was lying. If he could really wipe out 100,000 warriors of the Great Wasan Empire in a very short time, it would prove that the other side was extremely powerful. It is very likely that the Great Wasan Empire could not contend with it. However, the Great Wasan Empire was arrogant and declared war on it. A certain senior official exclaimed, "It's bad." The hearts of other senior officials also had a bad premonition in an instant. The 100,000 troops of Kamda had lost contact before, and now the 400,000 troops had also lost contact. Kamda was puzzled. What happened? The powerful empire you mentioned seems to be the fleet of the Wangxian Empire. This understanding is not wrong. The other side is a giant ship floating in the sky. The senior officials of the Wasan Empire were inevitably horrified. A giant ship floating in the sky. No wonder they were beaten so badly by the other side. It seems that the other side is stronger than the Great Wasan Empire. A certain senior official explained to Kamda, "During the time when you lost contact, we had declared war on them and sent out 400,000 troops. We were scheduled to launch an attack at dawn this morning to crush everything, but we have lost contact for half a day." Kamda's heart was like being galloped by 10,000 alpacas. He hurried back just to stop the Wasan Empire from acting rashly, but this group of idiots not only declared war on the other side, but also sent 400,000 warriors of the Great Wasan Empire to die in vain. After a while, when this group of senior officials were in a dilemma, the Emperor of the Great Wasan Empire came. The Emperor of Wasan said, "Why do you look so sad, my dear ministers?" A certain senior official explained the whole story, which fully demonstrated that the fleet of the Wangxian Empire was extremely powerful. It was very likely that the Wasan Empire was not the opponent of the other side, and the 500,000 elite warriors added up were also likely to be gone. Emperor Wasan flew into a rage and shouted, "Bagaloo, you cowards, our Great Wasan Empire will never surrender. The spirit of Bushido will lead us to conquer the world and everything. Any race will be dominated by the Great Wasan race." It was very inspiring. It was as if the Wasan race was the most powerful race in the universe, and no enemy could hinder the plunder and development of the Great Wasan Empire. However, except for the Emperor, the other high-ranking officials of the Wasan Empire lowered their heads and responded to the Emperor's words with hesitation. How to fight? The 500,000 troops are gone. Can we send out another 1,000,000 troops next time? Doing so will only add another achievement to the opponent. Emperor Wasan was very upset and said angrily, "You cowards are not worthy of being warriors of the Great Wasan Empire. Do you want to reach a settlement with the other party and sign a humiliating treaty? Your Majesty, we really have no other choice. It may not be too late to fight the other party after we conquer the whole world." Emperor Wasan roared, "Bagaloo, you cowards, even if the other party is strong, what can you do? Can you come to the homeland of our Great Wasan Empire?" The people were scolded by the Emperor of the Wasan Empire, and they seemed to have regained their former courage and glory. They are invincible. They all felt guilty about their Majesty the Emperor. On the contrary, Kamda had seen the strength of the other party, and his uneasiness became stronger. The scenes that happened before were deeply imprinted in his mind and could not be erased. Now he still wanted to be an enemy of the other party, which was really unwise. "Your Majesty, as far as I know, the opponent's air giant ship is very powerful, and our weapons can hardly cause any substantial damage to it." Kamda's words were inevitably filled with worry, because if things go wrong, the Great Wasan Empire might establish an unprecedented strong enemy. A certain senior official angrily scolded, "Bagaloo, Kamda, you coward don't deserve to be here at all." Other senior officials also scolded Kamda one after another. The Emperor of the Wasan Empire saw all this and nodded unconsciously. "The Wasan people who can have such courage are warriors," he said with relief. "I am deeply relieved that you can restore your fighting spirit. Don't forget that our homeland has a large number of anti-aircraft guns and sea giant ships. If the opponent dares to come, there will be live targets in the air." Suddenly, the eyes of the senior officials of the Wasan Empire lit up. Wonderful. No matter how strong the opponent is, can they dare to come to the homeland of the Wasan Empire? There are a large number of anti-aircraft machine guns and a large number of giant ships at sea. The enemy is just a sitting duck. The opponent that the coward came to desperately encouraged can be beaten into a sieve and an idiot in minutes. As expected of His Majesty the Emperor, this idea is really great. The enemy is only powerful in Crescia country, and they dare not come to the mainland of the Great Wasan Empire. If they dare to come, they will be shot down in minutes. Confidence, blind confidence, once again filled everyone's heart. Everyone agreed that it was the coward Kamda who boasted too much. What weapons did not cause any substantial damage, it was just that the weapons were not good. Chapter 375. Simply seeking death. Everyone was like a chicken with blood, and they were in a crazy state again. At the moment, they were eager for the fleet of the Wangzi Empire to come to the mainland of the Great Rosan Empire. As long as they dared to come, they would be able to beat the other side into a fool with the powerful anti-aircraft firepower of the mainland. The Emperor of the Wasan Empire analyzed the situation and said with a smile, "Everyone, have you ever thought about this? Although from the current point of view we can't cause any harm to the fleet of the Wangzi Empire in Xia country, they dare not come to our mainland, so the two sides are in a situation where neither can do anything to the other." A senior official said excitedly, "Your Majesty, the Emperor is right. It was just our army's weapons that were not good before, but the air-to-air weapons on our mainland are definitely not what the other side can imagine. Even a mountain can be flattened." The Emperor of Wasan said, "Since neither side can do anything to the other, let's issue a notice requiring the fleet of the Wangzi Empire to admit their mistakes, otherwise once we transport the weapons from our mainland to Xia country, they will be in big trouble." After saying this, many senior officials, except Commander Kamda, clenched their fists excitedly, as if they had already seen that the other party would be forced to sign an extremely harsh treaty in the near future. "Your Majesty, I suggest that a formal statement should be issued, requiring the Wangzi Empire to ask them to kneel down and apologize, and offer their women and technology to beg for forgiveness from the Great Wasan Empire. They will definitely pay the price for blindly killing the warriors of the Great Wasan Empire. Kill them all. Letting them accept the fate of being dominated by the Wasan people is the best choice. If they don't accept our conditions, kill them. Enjoying the pleasure of trampling on human dignity is what the Wasan people like to do most. They have done this a lot in Xia before. As for the 500,000 Wasan troops who died, they were not considered at all. Although, from the current point of view, it is the Wasan Empire that suffered, but everyone agreed that it was the Wasan Empire's carelessness that allowed the fleet of the Wangzi Empire to be annihilated by luck. Otherwise, if the most advanced anti-aircraft weapons of the Wasan Empire were transported to Xia, they would definitely be beaten into idiots. That afternoon, the Wasan Empire issued a radio broadcast to the world, asking Xia to hand it over to the fleet of the Wangzi Empire on its behalf. From now on, the fleet of the Wangzi Empire must pay compensation for the brutal killing of the warriors of the Great Wasan Empire. The compensation must be paid by 500,000 women with regular facial features and healthy bodies, as well as a large amount of technology. If they do not agree, the Wasan Empire will definitely use its trump card. The Wasan Empire confidently issued such a demanding leap. For them, strength is not important, only a tough attitude is the key, because only by pretending to be good enough can you be sure to scare the other party and scare them into accepting the treaty. When the radio message came out, the whole world was shocked. Why is it the Wangzi Empire again? Where is the Wangzi Empire? Many people were confused and stupid, but more of the forces in the human camp felt a kind of mentality of mourning the death of the rabbit. Another human force is gone. Is the Wasan Empire really going to conquer the world in the future? And the highest official at Mingzhu City, Tan Wenchen, was also ordered to convey the statement of the Wasan Empire to the fleet of the Wangzi Empire. At this moment, he was holding a walkie-talkie left by the Marines, standing on the top of the city looking at the sky, his eyes full of joy. No one knew better than him what would happen once he told the news to the fleet of the Wangzi Empire. The Wasan Empire was about to be finished. It was over after they issued the statement. And now, the way to make the Wasan Empire finished was to use the walkie-talkie in his hand to inform the Wangzi Empire of the radio statement just issued by the Wasan Empire. After a while, the highest officer of Mingzhu City, Tan Wenchen, contacted a marine, and finally transferred the conversation to Lin Chen. It's like this, just now, the Wasan Empire issued a radio statement, the content is the highest officer of Mingzhu City told everything he knew without any concealment. Lin Chen was silent for a while, and asked, "Are you asking us to make compensation?" "Yes, that's what the Wasan Empire said in its statement. This is their usual style, to the point of black and white." "Okay, I know." Lin Chen hung up the walkie-talkie. Walking step by step inside the battleship, after a while, he entered the command room and whispered a few words to Jing Minjian. The latter didn't feel anything at first, but as Lin Chen kept talking, a smile gradually appeared on his face. It was an extremely cruel smile. He is not very capable, but his appetite is not small. After destroying about 500,000 Wasan people, the Wasan Empire didn't want to come and kneel down and beg for mercy, but it was so crazy. It's really looking for death. In this case, Jiang Minjian contacted many captains of the fleet and ordered, "The fleet is going to move, the target is the Wasan Empire." After a while, the third joint fleet of the Wangxi Empire, which was originally suspended near the Pearl City of Xia Kingdom, began to move, and the sound of swoosh swoosh broke through the air continuously. The next second, the behemoth that once floated in the sky had disappeared, allowing the earth below to enjoy the long-lost sunshine again. At this moment, the soldiers of Xia Kingdom were pointing at the sky and talking, as if they had hallucinations before. How come in a blink of an eye, those behemoths floating in the sky disappeared? The highest officer of Mingzhu City, Tan Wenchen, has also been looking at the sky. He showed a deep horror. There was nothing at the intersection of his sight. You know, there were those huge monsters floating in the air a second ago. However, although he was horrified, he showed a smile on his face. It was not difficult to guess what the other party did after his mysterious disappearance. The Wasan Empire is looking for death. No one can be blamed. If they want to blame, they can blame themselves for being too crazy and dare to provoke an extremely terrifying force. And here, just when the defenders of Mingzhu City were horrified, in the sky above the Wasan Empire, the third joint fleet of the Wangxi Empire appeared. They crossed an ocean and easily arrived above the Wasan Empire. The speed was so fast that the natives of this planet could not understand it, and it was even more unpredictable for the Wasan people. Because the Wasan Empire had just issued a statement not long ago, the third fleet of the Wangxi Empire appeared directly over the homeland of the Wasan Empire without anyone noticing. In the battleship, Jiang Minjian said ruthlessly, "Notify your ships to attack automatically, put away human compassion, destroy everything you can see, and make the Wasan people feel endless despair." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.